boy was freaking out, trapped at home. He'd been expelled from the group of the most powerful heroes, all because he belonged to the despised thief class. Akoma couldn't believe it. While his friends celebrated glory, he was the only failure. At that moment, a red alert appeared, a colossal monster emerged, destroying everything around. He thought he could win, but was defeated with a single strike. With his last breath, he used the power of his class and stole a legendary item, the Divine Pocket Watch, which grants the chance to go back 10 years in time and awaken a legendary class. Of course he accepted. Akoma returned to his younger self, now able to evolve faster than anyone. He slays monsters, clears dungeons, and earns double the XP. But to understand how it all began, we need to go back to the moment when a trembling man asked what his companion had just said. After all, they started that team together and had finally reached rank S. So if the guy couldn't understand why this was happening, staring at him sternly, his companion said that apparently he didn't understand, so he would say it once more. With that, the crazy guy shouted, calling him Ikoma Ichinos. Leaving him in shock, they said they wanted him out of the glorious sword team. 15 years before that event, some portals began appearing all over the world. The portals functioned as gates to supernatural realms, which started expelling the monsters that existed there. Meanwhile, part of the population began awakening abilities with levels, just like in a game, allowing them to fight. This group of people with awakened abilities was sent to combat the portals. They were called hunters. Someone was reading something written in a completely different script. At the same time, the accessed his awakened system. Hunters can select any character class of their preference, but some classes, like mages, are slow at casting attacks and difficult to control, leading to a high mortality rate. The boy was undecided about what to choose, so he decided to pick the bandit class, which had great agility, since his priority was gaining experience and becoming stronger. Akoma saw something that left him surprised. His plan had worked. He quickly gained a lot of experience points, becoming a high-level hunter known as Swift Blade. The portals gradually caused more destruction in the world. A magnificent wing appeared. It was a monster that greatly resembled a griffin. He started fighting on the front lines for the safety of his country and the world, and he genuinely believed it would always be that way. His leader said that they wanted his comrade out of the group. Shocked by this, Akoma asked why. But the guy had already lost patience and questioned whether he truly didn't know. He stated that the protagonist knew the real reason. The monsters were getting stronger, but none of his attacks were working. And on top of that, he was terrible as support. The protagonist clenched his fists, trying to contain his anger. The guy said that bandits were good because of their speed, but that was a thing of the past, claiming that no one chose the bandit class anymore since mages could deal a higher amount of damage even at low levels. Furthermore, the guild decided to remove him from the rank as hunter list so that Ikoma wouldn't die in high-level portals. The protagonist tried to argue, stating that he understood his flaws. Even so, he had risked his life to contribute to the team. The guy said that besides that, no one could confuse and poison monsters like he did. They stared at each other for a moment, but the leader stated that at least he didn't seem discouraged, asking the protagonist to continue. Ikoma asked what he meant by that. His companion only gave a brief smile. Walking past him, the man said that in any case, he was out of the team. With that, he left while the protagonist remained paralyzed. Ikoma stood still, not understanding what had happened. A little later, in a place where several empty bottles were scattered, a lot of trash and cigarettes were part of that mess. He was completely in tears, sitting on the ground while holding a lighter in one hand. Looking to the side, he noticed something, and he assumed that being a hunter meant everything to him. Even without receiving recognition, he always thought that all his efforts would be valued. He let the ashes fall from his cigarette, stating that this was his reward for all that sacrifice. He also remembered that he was never good enough. That's why he bought supplies with his own money and invested in equipment. Because of that, he didn't have a single cent left. He lost his rank as classification and now couldn't even enter high-level portals. The protagonist saw a notification on his phone saying that the Glorious Sword team had been successful in their expedition in China. They had managed to clear the Palace of Toddy, a portal that everyone said was impossible to conquer. Everyone was celebrating, extremely happy about it. On the other hand, the protagonist was paralyzed, staring at that news. He observed the chat discussing the event. Some people asked where Ikoma was, while others said that he had been expelled because he was a dead weight. Seeing those comments, the guy became extremely irritated and threw his phone against the wall. He questioned why he had chosen to become a bandit. He acknowledged that if he sold all of his equipment, he would have enough to survive. However, it wasn't that simple. Remembering the times when he was with his team, he began screaming while crying, declaring that he had sacrificed everything for them. Falling to the ground, he realized that he had nothing left. Suddenly, his phone emitted an alert, stating that the protagonist was very surprised. It stated that an S-rank monster had appeared in the Morima district of Tokyo, urging everyone to evacuate to a safe location. This made the guy extremely nervous. After all, the Glorious Sword team was out of the country, and there were no hunters in that area capable of subduing a monster of such level. He was no different. He couldn't do anything alone either, but his eyes drifted toward his equipment. Still a bit apprehensive, he realized he might be able to try something. A large monster, appearing as if it were wearing armor, soared through the sky. The protagonist was fighting against it while stating that, luckily, he hadn't sold his equipment. That monster was Kronos, the space-time dragon, being far more menacing than he had imagined. Ikoma assured himself that, at the very least, this would be a glorious end to his career as a hunter. Even though he was apprehensive, the guy declared that they should begin their final battle. With that, the dragon let out a tremendous roar, causing numerous stone fragments to rise. Dashing forward, the protagonist reminded himself that he was a hunter, and that he needed to buy time so people could evacuate and wait for other S-rank hunters to arrive. Thus, he leaped to attack the monster. Kronos also charged at his enemy, preparing to strike. Shocked, the protagonist noticed how incredibly fast his opponent was. His dagger was split in half. He immediately tried to dodge the attack. With great difficulty, he managed to evade. However, behind him, a massive explosion occurred. He looked on in horror at all that power. The dragon let out another roar while glaring at the powerless man. Ikoma realized that if he got any closer, he would die. So he used his double-bladed scythe, Hydra. However, it didn't deal a single point of damage to his opponent. Becoming increasingly nervous, the protagonist realized that the monster was immune to poison. Unexpectedly, Kronos launched another attack with its claws. Thanks to his speed, Ikoma managed to dodge, though with some difficulty. He admitted to himself that he couldn't win this way. After all, he would have already died if not for being a bandit-class fighter. Even so, he was cornered, with nowhere to run. This was his only chance. He grabbed a rope with a blade at its tip and began spinning it. Then he launched it at his enemy. It was a klepto claw used to steal items from the target. He hoped the monster had something useful, something that might give him a chance to fight back. His eyes gleamed as those enormous claws came straight for him. The strike was so fast and powerful that it completely destroyed his equipment. Even injured, the protagonist laughed, saying that apparently this was it. Lying amidst the rubble, covered in blood, he wondered if this was truly his end. His vision blurred with pain. He could barely see anything. And after a life spent saving so many others, this was how it would all end for him. He wished he had a chance to start over. He noticed something in his hand and questioned what it was, realizing that the klepto claw had stolen something. It had obtained an epic item, the divine pocket watch, which granted a one-time opportunity to go back 10 years into the past. He was stunned, wondering if he could really return to 10 years ago. Still writhing in pain, the protagonist questioned whether it would actually work. Noticing that the dragon was coming at him again, Ikoma remained hopeless as he saw the attack approaching, declaring that this was not the time to be thinking about that. Using the last of his strength, he gripped the watch tightly and shouted, saying he wanted to go back to the past. The monster's massive claw was extremely close to his body. One of its talons finally pierced through his chest, and he felt his consciousness fading away. Suddenly, he heard loud noises and wondered what was happening. Opening his eyes, the protagonist realized he was lying on the ground beside his bed. In his hand was an alarm clock, showing that the year was 2030, on a Friday at 8 o'clock a.m. Feeling a bit anxious, Ikoma complained, wondering if he was dreaming. Then he opened the curtains of his window. The former S-rank hunter was stunned by what he saw. Looking at his phone, he realized that it was displaying a calendar from 10 years ago, and he remembered the divine watch. Thus, he quickly opened his status window. Shocked, he saw that his class had not yet been defined, meaning he had truly returned to the past. The protagonist gave a faint smile, realizing he now had the chance to do things differently. With that in mind, he declared that he would become the strongest hunter of all time. A man mentioned that people were saying there had been deaths there, warning that they should restrict service entry into the portals. The protagonist watched this video while brushing his teeth. Another older man stated that every year the number and strength of monsters increased, and sending powerless people in would only result in more casualties. Ikoma confirmed that the watch had truly sent him 10 years back in time. He remarked that at some point people had stopped debating this issue. After all, it became clear that everyone had to learn how to protect themselves. Knowing what would happen in the future would be extremely useful. Aside from him, no one knew which monsters gave the most experience points or where to obtain rare items. However, he preferred to choose a class first, and to do that, he needed to reach level 10. There weren't many portals for low-level hunters, especially those without a class. So the guild regulated all portals that were still restricted. He was inside a goblin den, an F-rank portal, stating that he would be able to reach level 6 after killing the last monster. A man was fighting some of the goblins nearby. The older man chuckled, saying he had arrived just in time and asking if the protagonist was okay. But mentally, Ikoma questioned who that guy was. The man told him that the kid wouldn't have been able to clear that portal alone, explaining that goblins were weak but could be dangerous when they teamed up. With a smile, he introduced himself as Kenji, a level 16 hunter who wielded an excellent sword and made sure that rookies didn't die. He said people called him the tutorial guy, while mentally, Ikoma assumed this guy clearly had nothing better to do. Kenji explained that hunters didn't have an official retirement age, so he figured this was a great way to make money. But the boy was extremely discouraged, wondering how he had ended up in this situation. Suddenly, he shouted in celebration, announcing that he had finally reached level 10. The system notified him that his level had increased and that he had received 2 skill points. The crazy guy started slapping the protagonist on the back, congratulating him for finally reaching level 10, while Ikoma thanked him. Kenji added that if Ikoma kept going like this, he might even become famous. Meanwhile, the boy thought to himself that he could reach S rank. The man said that soon, Ikoma would be able to select his class and that he could count on his help if needed. The protagonist remained thoughtful for a while. Each class came with a unique set of abilities, which could be acquired by spending skill points. The old man suggested the swordsman class since that way the kid could attack enemies just like him. But considering Aikoma's agility, the bandit class would also be a good fit. However, he grew curious when he noticed that the boy still hadn't chosen a class. Kenji asked if he didn't know how to use skill points. He questioned whether no one had told the kid to start with the mandatory skills, light steps and fortitude. These two skills were responsible for increasing a person's physical attributes. They were considered essential for beginners, as most hunters initially had no means of defense. But since his goal was to become the strongest hunter of all time, he couldn't afford to waste his skill points on such things. So he only needed one skill. As he made his choice, Kenji tried to stop him, begging the boy not to choose that. The man began to rant, saying that damage resistance skills were useless. Not to mention, Aikoma would never find any use for fall damage resistance. Then the system notified him that he had acquired fall damage resistance. The old man asked if Aikoma was afraid of heights and warned him to be more careful when selecting his next skills. Even more shocked, Kenji watched as the protagonist used 10 more skill points to upgrade his resistance to level 2. Losing his mind, Kenji saw Aikoma evolve it to level 3, using 15 more points. Devastated, he muttered that he couldn't believe the kid had wasted all his skill points on fall damage resistance. He declared that now the boy had only two options, either become a swordsman or remain a civilian. But the protagonist assured him there was another option. This shocked Kenji to his core. Aikoma chose the Gravity Master class. It was a hidden class that only appeared when a player spent all the skill points earned from levels 1 to 10 on fall damage resistance. For a long time, no one knew about it due to its activation requirement, but even after its discovery, many people still didn't choose it. Additionally, manipulating gravity was extremely difficult. But Aikoma had also been an S-rank hunter before, so he knew that this was the best class in existence. The old man shouted, ordering him to stop. After all, this would turn the boy into a mage. He insisted that Aikoma could still cancel and choose to become a swordsman instead. But Aikoma assured him that this was what he wanted. With that, the system notified him that he had acquired a new class along with gravitational abilities such as manipulation and magic. Seeing that he had succeeded, the protagonist began to celebrate. He shouted, declaring that he was finally a mage. This time, he would become a powerful S-rank and never have to suffer that humiliation again. Kenji remained somewhat nervous as he watched the rookie. He called out to the boy, stating that he didn't seem to understand that the mage class wasn't as cool as he thought. The old man explained that mages were more vulnerable and their mortality rate was much higher than other classes. He even suggested that perhaps the kid should reconsider being a hunter altogether. Seeing this, Aikoma mentally noted that he had already expected this reaction since people tended to believe that other classes were better. Suddenly, Kenji's expression turned to shock as he began screaming, demanding to know what was happening. A red-hooded goblin, level 17, had appeared out of nowhere. Frightened, Kenji admitted that he couldn't believe a high-level monster had just spawned there. The goblin began chasing after one of the female hunters, while Kenji rushed to help her escape. But mentally, he acknowledged that he wasn't skilled enough to fight stronger monsters, which was why he never left that place. The rest of the hunters, there were only level 10 or lower. No one else could stop that monster. Extremely nervous, Kenji suddenly remembered the protagonist. Gripping his sword tightly, he ran forward, declaring that he would handle that goblin. Even Aikoma is surprised to see a red hood there. Mentally, he tells himself that Kenji should be able to handle that monster at his current level. However, the old man was only defending himself while the goblin kept attacking relentlessly. The protagonist notices that apparently he has no experience fighting monsters stronger than himself. The old man starts shouting, asking if there's any level 15 or higher hunter to help. They ask if Kenji isn't level 16, but he says he can't face something higher than his current level. The protagonist assumes that he shouldn't offer to help. After all, the monster is too strong for him to handle. He also notices that he can't even see its movements and he would die instantly if hit, making his situation even worse. Besides not fully understanding his abilities, the Gravity Master has low stats. But then he remembers how the man helped him and worried about his well-being. This makes him realize that it would be horrible to let someone like Kenji die. So he grabs his sword, stating that he has always liked a challenge. He says he will see if he can overcome his class's weakness. Shocked, the old man warns that his level is too low, not to mention that mages are weak against melee attacks, and a monster of that level would easily kill him in the blink of an eye. Ignoring all of that, the protagonist calls out to the Red Hood. The monster, still in a frenzy, looks at him while the boy says he will use it to test his abilities as a Gravity Master. He says he believes this is the best class, which is why he is risking his second chance, but he can't run away from something so weak. As he moves forward, he says that otherwise, choosing such a class makes no sense. The old man tells the brat to run. At the same time, the monster draws its sword and charges at the novice. The worst part of being a mage is their terrible physical attributes, always needing to rely on hunters from other classes. But he is different since, as a Gravity Master, he can temporarily enhance his attributes through manipulation. Thus, he uses manipulation to reduce gravity by half. With that, he quickly dodges his opponent's attack. Even Kenji is surprised and asks how he became so fast. Mentally, Aikoma explains that this ability increases the caster's movement speed by reducing gravity by half. However, he can only make linear movements, but that's fine as long as he can predict the enemy's movements. The monster attacks him again, but he manages to dodge once more. He states that he has fought against thousands of monsters at once, using nothing but his speed as a rogue. The Red Hood feels the consequences after receiving a slash. The old man keeps asking how a low-level mage can deliver such quick strikes. With an understanding of mana management and the class itself, many gravity masters have managed to equalize their physical attributes. The protagonist says that low-level monsters recognize simple patterns, making them easy to fight. He just needs to increase his speed. The old man asks Akoma how that is possible. Surprised, the brat shouts to the old man, asking him to finish off the goblin. With that, Kenji runs with his sword in hand. The boy keeps staring at the monster while it looks at the old man, who is rushing forward to strike it. With a smile, Akoma asks the creature how it dares to turn its back on him. Thus, the protagonist uses gravity magic, causing it to be stuck in place. The goblin is completely paralyzed while hearing something. Above it, the old man is preparing to land the final blow. With that, he delivers the strike, causing the protagonist to level up twice. Seeing the goblin's corpse, Akoma realizes that it actually worked. With some relief, he says that this fight proved that he can become the most powerful hunter of all time. The people around notice that the hunter is new, yet he had great ease in defeating the Red Hood. Mentally, Kenji realizes that Akoma managed to surpass the monster's speed despite being a low-level hunter. Observing the boy, he is stunned to see that the brat hasn't even realized what he just did. Still a bit shaken, he says that the novice has an above-average talent, wondering who Akoma really is. Suddenly, the protagonist feels a sharp pain. He leans against a rock really heavily, noticing that he used up all his mana, also realizing that he will have to work a bit more on developing his ability to use skills. On the other hand, the old man seemed genuinely happy to see that he was alive. The man approaches him and thanks him for the help, asking if he would like to be carried on his back. Akoma says that it's quite embarrassing, but he will have to accept it. There were many people inside the portal, but only the protagonist, who had become a hunter just a few days ago, stepped up to help. Mentally, the old man continues to thank him, stating that he helped him find the courage he needed. He had let fear control him, which is why he only hunted monsters below his level. But now it's time to stop being the tutorial guy. Thus, he decides to walk as a victor. Meanwhile, Kenji says it was an honor to witness the birth of that hero. Thanking the protagonist once again, that portal proved what he could do as a gravity master. Now his goal is to level up. However, fighting alone would be inefficient, not to mention the risks involved, making it necessary to have someone he can rely on. An attendant says she has never heard of a class related to gravity. She asks if the boy can really be a hunter with such low stats. But Akoma changes the subject and asks if there is anyone looking for members to form a team. The woman says yes and informs him that there is a team that accepts anyone, regardless of class or level. The boy asks if she could introduce him to this person. A bit nervous, she says that since his class is mage and his attributes are also very low, he might be rejected. He replies that many rare classes are difficult to manage, so he expected people to have trouble accepting him. The protagonist asks her for their contacts so he can try to solve this problem. A guy appears saying that the boy is causing too much trouble for the attendant, telling him to just give up and leave. Akoma asks who he is. The crazy guy says that apparently the boy is quite funny, claiming that he must know him. He introduces himself as Kakeru from the Thunder Knights team, stating that all hunters know them. The protagonist says they probably only have melee attack classes. The crazy guy confirms, saying that mages are useless. He claims they are a bunch of cowards who can't even get close to a monster. Because of that, these people don't deserve to be hunters. So Kakeru says that the boy should have done his research before choosing a class. Besides that, the brat's attributes are terrible, and he feels offended seeing him tarnish the reputation of rare classes. Akoma asks if that means he also has a rare class. Kakeru confirms and asks if the protagonist wants to see what he can do. Pointing his sword at the boy, he tells him to witness his power. Raising it, he uses lightning summoning. After that, he says this is the best character class since it has incredible attributes and skills. The people around are surprised, saying they didn't know such classes existed. The crazy guy feels proud while watching their reactions. The attendant says that using abilities there is prohibited, but Kakeru assures her that he needed to do it so that brat would understand. With a mocking look, he says it's none of his business, but insists that the protagonist is very arrogant for wanting to join a team. While the guy keeps bragging, the protagonist becomes interested in the fact that he is a Thunder Knight. This class can deal a good amount of damage, but its movements are simple and unsuitable for complex battles. So he will soon be in big trouble when facing monsters that are fast or immune to electric attacks. Meanwhile, several people say that mage classes are useless, and that all this commotion is just because the boy wants to join a team. On the other hand, others admire and envy Kakeru for his Thunder Knight class. Akoma states that portals were a relatively new phenomenon at that time, so this isn't too surprising. He remarks that he almost forgot how mages were treated in the past. People always thought attribute points and extraordinary abilities were everything, so maybe he will have to fight alone. The attendant calls out to Kakeru, saying he didn't need to say things like that. The protagonist thanks her, saying he shouldn't have asked and stating that he will be alone for now. The crazy guy says that maybe he should reconsider this whole idea of being a hunter, assuring him that he doesn't want to find his corpse out there. As he leaves, Akoma Akoma thanks him for the advice. Kakeru keeps watching him as he walks away. In the Hunter Guild's archive room, Akoma reads a book and says it will take a long time to earn people's trust, meaning he won't be able to join teams temporarily. So he needs to find someone he can rely on in the long run, or someone with a class that has good synergy with his. But before doing that, you will have to level up and achieve something remarkable. He had some ease in defeating the Red Hood and discovered what a gravity user is capable of, wondering if he should challenge himself in a portal with monsters higher than his level. He looks for an ideal one, noticing that the level 25 statue temple seems like a great choice. Controlled portals are managed by the Hunter Guild and remain open so hunters can gain experience. The strongest monster in that portal is the Stone Knight, making it the perfect place for low-level hunters to earn money. And once he manages to hunt the monster there, some teams might consider accepting him. People can enter these portals even if their level is lower, and he can gain experience by hunting monsters near the entrance. Closing the book, Akoma states that he can do this. So he decides he will level up in the statue temple and start looking for team members. Inside a dungeon, a person was running down a flight of stairs. Injured, he declares that this is ridiculous, since it makes no sense at all. Suddenly, he trips over something. The boy falls to the ground, screaming as he looks in fear at something. With that, a huge impact occurs. A stone monster stood still, covered in blood. The attendant was astonished, noticing that he was only level 12 and yet wanted to go to the statue temple alone. But the protagonist says that there is nothing in the regulations preventing him from doing so. Still nervous, she says she understands that. However, she states that he would be trying to kill himself. After all, the recommended level for that portal is 25. The woman adds that besides that, many unexpected things can happen inside a dungeon while Akoma walks away. The protagonist claims that he will just take a quick look, saying he won't stay there for long. In front of the portal, he tells himself that he needs to take some risks to get stronger. After all, he has constantly fought against monsters with higher levels. Otherwise, he would never gain enough experience to evolve. However, this shouldn't be taking so long, since he could gain several levels at once by killing a monster there. He walks past some statues. One of them had a crystal on his forehead. It quickly takes advantage of the boy's opening and tries to attack him from behind. But he manages to dodge, saying he saw it coming. Akoma opens his status window, noting that it appears to be a level 20 monster. Looking directly at the stone creature, the protagonist declares that he should be able to handle it. Thus, he continues to dodge his enemy's attacks. With some surprise, he realizes that he has been cornered. The stone monster keeps advancing toward him. With that, he uses his gravity reduction, allowing him to escape from that spot and even land a hit on his opponent. However, the creature had not suffered even a scratch. But the protagonist assures himself that this beast cannot kill him. Moreover, he can see all its weak points. At that moment, he starts landing a series of attacks against the statue. Seeing that he dealt a reasonable amount of damage, he assumes it will be difficult. But he declares that he already expected such high defense stats. The monster once again moves toward him. Even though it might take him a while to defeat it, he still wants to test something. So he uses gravity reduction again, and quickly manages to dodge his enemy's attack. Next, he increases the gravity while pointing his sword at the statue. With a single strike, Akoma manages to pierce the monster's chest. From within the crack, a red glow begins to emanate. With that, it is split in half. He explains that he made himself lighter to increase speed. Then he self-accelerated with gravity toward the impact point to increase damage. This combination made his attack much more powerful. Just as he expected, he gained several levels at once, claiming that it's best to use them immediately. While opening his status window, he says he already has something in mind. Still thoughtful, he says he can only upgrade one skill with the points he has, so he decides to go for gravity manipulation. Thus, he confirms it in the system, causing his manipulation to evolve to level 2, allowing him to control the gravity acting on his body. He is satisfied with this result, realizing that he can now control the direction force of gravity, noting that he might find a good use for this. But in any case, the real reason he came here is for the demon stones. This is the core of the monsters, which will serve as proof that he killed a stone knight. Even though they got what he came for, he still has a lot of mana left. So he looks back, searching for more enemies. Seeing that there were several others, he decides to hunt a few more to test his new ability. Suddenly, someone summons a lightning bolt and destroys one of the statues. The Thunder Knights group was hunting in that same portal. One of Kakeru's companions says that he is impressive after all. He defeated one of the monsters with a single strike. The girl says that the Stone Knights seemed to have resistance to electricity, but his skill was superior. The guy says it was way too easy and asks if all controlled portals are like that. Laughing, he says that now it's taking longer to level up, suggesting that they should go to a portal with stronger monsters. He steps on one of the stones that was still burning. For some reason, the man does this while saying nothing. His companion asks if he doesn't think he was too harsh on the boy from the guild, but Kakeru assures her that someone needs to teach these people where they belong. The guy says he actually did the kid a favor since he could have died. Even though it was a bit tough, it was to make him aware. After all, someone needed to say it. His colleague says he didn't seem to have that intention. Suddenly, they hear hear a very loud noise coming from another room. Drawing his sword, Kakeru asks if it's the same monster. His friend says that space is taller than the previous one. But the guy says it doesn't matter after all. Some monsters are a bit bigger than others and nothing more. However, a giant stone warrior appears. Both of his companions are startled, asking what that thing is. Excited, the lunatic says that things are finally getting interesting since that is a level 30 statue. It is taller than the other monsters that came before. His friend, frightened, states that they cannot fight against a level 30 monstrosity. Indifferently, Kakeru says he has been thinking about something lately, claiming that monsters at his level aren't fun because they are too easy. Since the Thunder Knights are much stronger than other hunters, he wants to try going against that Stone Knight. The monster raises its weapon to strike. With the impact, the ground begins to crack. His companion asks if he's sure about this, but Kakeru says there are 3 of them. Grabbing his sword, he says that this is one of the big ones and has a high level. But Stone Knights are nothing more than moving statues. That's why they are slow and dull. At that moment, the monster launches an attack against him. He dodges with visible difficulty. Now a bit apprehensive, the lunatic admits that it might be a little faster due to its level. Jumping toward his enemy, he says that in any case, he can still expose the statue's weakness after attacking it. With that, he strikes the monster with his lightning sword. Getting nervous, he says that apparently things have gotten a bit more complicated since its defense is also higher. The Stone Knight quickly prepares its massive sword again. Without hesitation, it delivers a powerful blow. Activating his Thunder Knight power, Kakeru convinces himself that he can block the attack and escape its range. Suddenly, the statue moves extremely fast. Because of this, the man is struck and his chest is slashed. Lying on the ground, he questions how something like that could be so powerful. Extremely frightened, he says that only a few items exist at levels higher than his, but apparently, this is on another level. His companion calls out to him. Terrified, the man warns everyone not to underestimate the enemy's strength. But before he can finish his sentence, the statue is already heading toward the girl. With great difficulty, she manages to block the strike with her sword. Her other companion calls out to Karen as she's thrown back. However, he is also struck in the stomach. The force of the impact is so great that he even spits blood. Seeing both his companions lying on the ground, Kakeru becomes even more terrified. Panicked, he complains about what is happening. Looking at that massive monster, he wonders if it has always been this intimidating. Summoning his power, he says that in any case, he is special. With that, he unleashes a massive lightning attack against the knight. He claims to have put all his power into that lightning. Losing almost all hope, he watches as the statue simply breaks the sword in its hand. Helpless, he can only watch as his sword is split in half. Desperate, he quickly jumps back. Extremely frightened and nervous, the man starts crying uncontrollably. However, the monster keeps advancing toward him. He is in disbelief as he sees the statue getting closer. The creature raises its sword while Kakeru insists that this cannot be happening, declaring that he does not want to die like this. In front of him on the ground, his sword lies broken. The Stone Knight stands still, looking at him as if he were an insect. Trembling with fear, the man begins to beg for his life. Bowing to the monster, he pleads not to be killed. He screams, begging for someone to save him. Suddenly, a leg wrapped in purple magic appears. The monster raises its massive stone blade. On the other hand, the protagonist uses gravitational reduction. Because of this, the statue is momentarily paralyzed. Noticing this, it looks around, searching for the source of the attack. The monster sees a purple light coming from its rib. Landing a bit further away, it's a coma. He assumes that he knew that wouldn't work. Surprised, Kakeru asks if he is the rookie from the guild who chose the mage class, but the boy remains silent. Irritated, the man demands to know what he is doing, stating that there is no way he can defeat that monster. The protagonist has already reached level 16 and acknowledges that the hunter is right. He assures himself that this will not be easy, since it is a level 30 Stone Knight. That creature probably reached such a level by consuming weaker hunters and monsters until it became an irregular specimen. Even so, he has to admit that the monster is enormous, declaring that he only wanted to take a light stroll around there, looking for a monster to kill before leaving. However, he never imagined he would encounter something so big. Still on the ground, the man tells him to stop admiring the knight and just run, claiming that it defeated them before they could even attack it. With both of his companions lying on the ground. Ignoring him, the protagonist activates gravitational reduction. The monster, like him, also prepares to unleash a powerful attack. However, he manages to dodge thanks to his speed. Quickly, the statue shifts its movement and tries to strike him another way. As soon as he lands on the ground again, Ikoma immediately jumps. Because of this, he manages to position himself above the monster while evading the attack, and he lands his sword on the knight's head. Still on the ground, Kakeru mentally admits that he cannot believe this. After all, how could a low-level rookie mage do that, fighting almost on equal footing with such a monster? In his mind, the protagonist realizes that the monster is not that fast despite being high level, so he can easily surpass it. But his biggest problem is that he has no skill powerful enough to defeat it. The Stone Knight is a monster with high defense, so his attack would hardly work against it, not to mention the huge level difference. Additionally, he will soon run out of mana if he continues using manipulation, which means he doesn't have much time. Suddenly, the statue prepares to strike again. While dodging, Ikoma admits that this is a bit reckless, but in any case, he has to try. The monster swung its sword as Ikoma dodged. Kakeru stated that he knew it was unlikely, but he had hoped that the guy would be able to do it. However, his attack also didn't work. His gravity reduction ability consumed a lot of mana, but he couldn't fight powerful monsters without using it. He realized he couldn't drag this on much longer, so he decided to resolve the battle once and for all. Another big slash aimed at him. The boy dodged again. He used his ability to jump a second time. The protagonist spun in the air to gain more force. Suddenly, he used the gravity of his body to pin the enemy's sword to the ground. The monster tried to punch him. Akoma jumped again, evading another blow. He landed on top of his opponent's head. Surprised, Kakeru asked how he was able to move like that and if it was because of his class. The protagonist jumped onto the monster's head once more. He mentally confessed that he wished he could save his manipulation level 2 ability, but he didn't have many options. So he activated reverse gravity. With that, the boy was upside down, supporting his feet on the ceiling. Noticing that he could apparently use this ability on himself while his enemies searched for him, he was surprised, thinking it was quite interesting. The protagonist prepared, stating that he should be able to deal the necessary damage from that height. Determined to deal with it, he used the gravity increase. Preparing his sword, Ikoma said that this would increase his weight. Combining this with the acceleration of the fall, he would deal more damage. He shouted, claiming that it was too late and that the monster couldn't stop him. Piercing through it, the protagonist used the meteor fall to end the battle. The giant monster was split in half and began to disintegrate. As the fragments of his body fell, he was notified that he had gained 524 experience points. He leveled up from level 16 to 23 with an additional 14 skill points. Satisfied, he saw that his plan had worked. After all, he killed a monster that was almost twice his level, which is why he gained so many levels at once. After his victory, Ikoma celebrated. He knelt down after increasing his fall damage resistance to level 3. Mentally, he admitted that the impact of the fall was quite severe, but he was happy to have gained resistance ahead of time. On the other hand, Kakeru was stunned, admitting that it was amazing. After all, his lightning attack didn't work on that monster due to its resistance, but still a mage had managed to defeat it. A bit embarrassed, he asked why the protagonist had helped him, considering that he had treated him so badly at the guild. However, the guy quickly became scared, assuming that maybe Ikoma was there for revenge. Making him even more nervous, the boy called out to him. He asked if Kakeru could get up on his own and if he was okay. The boy was surprised by this unexpected reaction. He started laughing, realizing that it wasn't what he had imagined. Extending his hand in return, the guy thanked him for saving him. After some time at the Hunter's Guild, the receptionist was extremely startled, asking what he was talking about, asking if a level 30 Stone Knight had appeared. Even more shocked, she asked if the protagonist had really defeated it. He simply confirmed without giving too many details. She stated that it was impossible since he had just started and was alone. Picking up the demon stone from the monster, he asked if that was enough proof. The receptionist said that a core that size could only be from a level 30 monster or higher, and even though it was hard to believe, she would register it. She asked if the boy wanted to exchange the stone for money, noting that it should be worth around 200,000 yen. But the protagonist said that at least for now he didn't. After all, he needed it to prove his abilities. Suddenly, someone called out to him. It was Kakeru, who said he had been looking for him since he wanted to thank him once again. He said that he also had a big offer for him. Opening his arms, the guy asked if he wouldn't like to join the Thunder Knights. All the hunters around were surprised by the fact that the Rising team was inviting someone. Seeing the core in his hand, people started talking about how Ikoma must be incredible. With a smile, the guy said that it was his lucky day, assuring that it was rare for him to be receiving such a favor. The protagonist was a little embarrassed, while the boy asked him not to be shy. But Ikoma said that, unfortunately, he would have to decline the offer. Kakeru was surprised by this, asking why he had declined. Incredulously, he asked if the boy wasn't looking for a team. The protagonist said that he was, but informed that he had changed his mind. With that, he turned his back and started to walk away, leaving the guy in shock. Mentally, Ikoma assumed that if he could continue leveling up like he was, it was certain that he would achieve what he wanted. Soon, a portal called the Theater of Maniacal Dreams would appear, and inside it, there was a unique and incredible item. Therefore, thanks to the memories of his past life, he would be the first to clear the gate. Someone placed some stones on the table, saying they would like to exchange them for money. People around grew nervous. The receptionist asked how he managed to kill so many monsters every time, stating that she thought he worked alone. The protagonist ignored her and said there was one more thing. He requested promotion to rank D. A rank F hunter is promoted to rank E once they choose a class, and only rank D hunters or higher go to portal disasters. The receptionist informed him that he could only request a promotion once he reached level 25. Showing his status window, Ikoma said that in that case, it was no problem as he was already at level 26. The woman was extremely surprised by this. After all, he was a mage who worked alone and had already reached such a level. She asked how someone could gain so many levels in such a short period, declaring that it seemed suspicious. The receptionist then asked if gravity masters were really that strong. After some time, Ikoma said he had finally been promoted. Now he had more than just an amazing class, along with his 10 years of knowledge and experiences as a rank S hunter. Leveling up too quickly could attract attention he didn't want, but still he needed to hurry to get there on time. Many portals become available once a hunter is promoted to rank D, also making it easier to join teams. The most important part was that this would allow him to enter the portal where that great unique weapon would appear. The hunter who got such a weapon in his past life became a serial killer, probably because he obtained such powerful strength all at once. But this time he wouldn't let that fall into his hands, and for that he needed someone to help him clear the portal. He began observing around him, stating that there was no need for a large team as that could be problematic at a certain level. At least having one more person would help, as he preferred to be cautious at the moment. But for that, he needed to find someone who could complement him with gravity stability. He wondered what abilities would be suitable for the portal he was about to face, and the most appropriate would be to find someone who worked alone but also wasn't against teamwork. The protagonist thought for a moment, complaining that maybe he was being too demanding. To find someone in time, he would need to search all the guilds in the region. After some time, he admitted that he had spent half of his day visiting the guilds. This was already his 4th guild. As he entered through the door, he said maybe he should give up on some things. Suddenly, he saw someone calling their companion useless. A girl, almost crying, apologized, but her colleague said that an apology wouldn't change anything. Akoma wondered what they were arguing about. The girl pointed at Satsuki, stating that she was fired. The girl tried to beg, assuring she would try harder. But irritated, the leader said that their abilities were terrible with long cooldowns, claiming those techniques were useless. She said that in fact she should be paying them for putting up with the dead weight for so long. The girl didn't know how to respond. Meanwhile, the protagonist was observing everything. He recalled when he was expelled from that group, but told himself there was nothing he could do for her. After all, he couldn't have a partner simply out of sympathy. His life depended on this. His ex-leader started mocking Satsuki, saying it was a shame she had chosen such a useless class, claiming it was something miserable and useless just like her. Moreover, she said she knew what would happen the moment she heard the girl was a witch. For some reason that made the protagonist extremely interested, even as the others told her to give up on being a hunter. Sorcery and gravity complement each other. She could deal a lot of damage against the boss in the portal theater. That's why he was a bit uncertain if he should recruit her or not. However, the girl asked what he was looking at. The protagonist introduced himself, saying he was a rank D hunter looking for a team to join. She quickly became interested when she saw he had a rank D hunter license. The girl tried to seduce him, informing him that she had just opened a spot in her group and asked if he would like to fill it. Excitedly, he called out to Satsuki, asking if she wanted to be part of his group. The girl didn't quite understand what was going on, while her ex-colleague stood there, utterly confused. Mentally, Ikoma noted that he couldn't miss this opportunity, as she was a witch, or rather, the person he had been looking for. But the other woman asked him not to waste time with that girl and urged him to join her group instead. A bit embarrassed, Satsuki thanked the offer, but said that he was a rank D hunter and she wasn't even level 20 yet. Taking her by the hand, Ikoma assured her it wouldn't take long for the girl to level up, stating that he needed her help. She said her class was useless, and that she didn't want to drag him down. Despite that, Ikoma said again that he could help her. The girl said she didn't have confidence in herself and that maybe it would be better for her to give up for real, but he said he wouldn't ask for much, begging her for a chance, assuring her that he could help her gain the confidence she needed. Bowing, Satsuki said that if he really wanted, she would love to join his group. However, her ex-colleague said she didn't believe that he had chosen such a useless person for his group, claiming that he would regret it. The boy thanked her for the advice but said he had something else to add. As he passed by her, the protagonist stated that he knew more about classes than anyone else. Right behind him was his new partner. Oish could cover the weak points of a gravity master, and the best part was that this class could do amazing things in the theater, and that was as good as his own weapons. Some time had passed, and they were now in another location. The protagonist thanked her for coming along with him. The girl said that witches weren't that useful, but the protagonist replied that he was also from a mage class, stating that she might think she's useless now, but that would change in a few years. Now she asked if he truly believed that, to which Ikoma confirmed. It would be better, right? For now, they needed to talk about a portal. Determined, the girl assured that she was certain, but making her nervous, he explained that it wasn't a controlled portal. Ikoma said they had entered a portal that hadn't appeared yet, with a recommended level of 30 or higher. Startled, the girl exclaimed that the recommended level was too high, and on top of that, it was an uncharted portal. Uncharted portals are those that haven't existed long enough for someone to analyze them. Extremely nervous, she said that she was still at level 17 and that her class was terrible. But the protagonist asked her not to worry, assuring that nothing would happen to her since he would fight alone. In his past life, he had read all the available records about portals. That's how he was able to devise his strategy to eliminate that theater. He declared that the two of them could easily clear the portal, saying that the girl just needed to trust him. He felt bad for dragging someone into this, but he needed to protect that weapon no matter what. Satsuki asked how the protagonist knew about a portal that hadn't even appeared yet. Ikoma said he couldn't reveal all the details, but to summarize, it was all thanks to a rare item. She said she didn't believe it. After all, there was no way an item could predict a portal so far in advance. Suddenly, everyone's phone started notifying an alert. Nervously, she grabbed her device to see what it was about. The protagonist did the same. Everyone was talking about the portal alert, especially especially since it was near the Sikyo district. Satsuki asked if this was the portal he had been talking about, but the protagonist already said they would begin the next day. He explained that probably no one would be able to clear the portal in a week, but after killing the boss, one would get a reward. After some time, they were already searching for the portal, while the girl asked if Akoma was sure. They realized that the portal eradication ministry had already set up at the location. Suddenly, a woman ran up to them asking if they were hunters. She asked both of them to report any information they found about the portal, such as its layout or the abilities of the monsters. However, their safety should be their priority since there had been many deaths in uncharted portals. They told her that the ministry could count on their help. Satsuki asked why he hadn't told her they were going to kill the boss, but Aikoma explained that she would have stopped them. Once inside the portal, he warned her that this one was different from the others and asked if the girl was still anxious. The girl said yes, starting to stammer. The protagonist apologized for asking such a difficult favor, but he reassured her that he would fight all the monsters alone, and if he couldn't handle it, they would leave immediately. Afraid of being abandoned again, Satsuki began to say that she would do her best. She said the protagonist could even use her as bait, but Aikoma said that wouldn't be necessary, telling her to just cast her spells. The girl said she barely knew any useful skills. He asked if she could use something called mana drain. This skill drains mana from a target, making it useful in long battles against stronger monsters. Since it also allows transferring that mana to a group member, it makes it the perfect ability to assist gravity users. This way, the protagonist wouldn't have to worry about his mana while dealing with monsters that could be drained. The girl said the skill took too long to cast and wasn't very efficient in terms of mana, suggesting it was better to use one that harmed enemies directly. Mentally, Akoma thought that might be true if one of them specialized in that, while he said he would fight at his maximum, and that should give her all the time she needed. Fighting against him was a large clown bear. While dodging the attacks, he shouted for his companion to use the ability. She summoned his shadow ball, casting a large spell at the bear. With that, the bear screamed as it was hit by the ability. The protagonist realized that the monster had let its guard down. Therefore, he prepared to leap toward the enemy. Quickly, he was already above his adversary. He increased his body's gravity and attacked the bear's head. After defeating it, Aikoma sheathed his sword, preparing for more. He said that it had been extremely easy, while gaining 212 experience points. Surprised, the girl said that she had gained 3 levels in one go, but she immediately said she felt bad for letting him do all the work. The protagonist assured her that he needed her help since they were going deeper. Furthermore, they were a team, so she needed to evolve. The girl asked if they were really a team. She said it felt very different. After all, it never seemed real when she was with Awa. Smiling, Satsuki then said that she would try to be more useful in the next battle. On the other hand, Aikoma asked her not to overdo it. A bit nervous, he reassured himself that they would be fine, and that they would defeat the boss and secure the rare items. A man named Kaoru had obtained that item in his past life. He used it to become the worst criminal in Portal history. You can be sure that guy never gained power later in the Portal, so they probably wouldn't find it. After all, 2 days had already passed since the theater opened. Meanwhile, a man was fighting. He tried to hit someone with his hammer, but the person dodged. The guy started laughing. Using a skill called Life Deleter, he managed to deal a fatal blow. His loincloth was covered in his adversary's blood. As the man's body collapsed, Kaoru said the guy should have known better than to pick a fight with him. He noticed that he had leveled up again. The crazy guy said that those losers had given a surprising amount of experience points. He said that humans don't fight each other, so they're much easier to defeat and kill, already being at level 36. Back with the protagonist group, he was using the gravity increase. Akoma summoned a dark ball in front of him. With that, he threw the clown from the box to the ground. Embarrassed, the girl said that even after casting spells behind him for a while, she had gained many levels, now being at level 22. She said she felt like she achieved so much without doing much, claiming that he probably would have done all of that alone. But the protagonist replied that it was only this easy because they hadn't encountered a powerful monster yet, as these monsters have simple patterns. Reaffirming to her that the witch class is powerful, the girl repeated that it didn't seem like it. Changing the subject, Satsuki asked if they were going to leave now, as he had already used a lot of his mana. After all, her mana was almost depleted. He said he was using gravity manipulation to increase his attributes, and that was the cause of the exhaustion. The girl mentioned that the guild advised them to leave once their mana drops below 50%. With a smile, he said it was time to test something. In front of them was a clown goblin. The protagonist asked if she was ready, informing her that they would begin. Immobilizing the monster, Aikoma told her to use the mana drain. The girl didn't know how to react to this. Tying up monsters and draining their mana would allow them to generate a lot of mana. Afterwards, she could use the ability on the protagonist to transfer the mana to him. The girl said she understood but asked him to at least cover the monster's face. Aikoma replied that he couldn't do that without using a skill. Stating that there was no other option, Satsuki began using her mana draining ability. The protagonist said that now they could, while the girl lamented the poor monster. It was lying on the ground after being cruelly defeated. The girl said she was going to transfer the mana now, but Aikoma asked why she was blushing like that, telling her not to make it weird. She began transferring the mana to her companion. The protagonist noticed that his mana went from 16 to 25. The girl admitted that it wasn't as efficient as she thought it would be, as a took a long time to gain just 9 points. He said that was exactly why they would drain the mana from 6 more goblins. The girl was startled by this, asking if they were really going to do that, but the boy said it was a great opportunity to level up. After a while, he struck a cut on one of the monsters. The protagonist said that was the 6th and asked how her mana was, to which she replied that it was almost fully recovered. Satsuki's level went from 20 to 22, while Aikoma leveled up only once. Excited, the girls said they could continue leveling up and exploring like this. But Aikoma said that if they took too long to recover their mana, it could cause accidents. Even so, he could fight monsters like that all day, ensuring they would never lose to them. Opening her status window, Satsuki said she had gained many levels in just one day. She stated that this was completely different from all the other portal expeditions she had been on, since the guild always taught them not to face monsters beyond their level. The protagonist seemed thoughtful as he listened to this. Standing up, he said the guild had to recommend that for safety. However, one rarely gets stronger without facing high-level monsters in order to acquire skills and experiences along the way. She kept watching him while he spoke. Suddenly, the girl became determined. After some time, they were walking through what seemed to be a cathedral, and Satsuki asked if they were really going to clear that portal. Suddenly, he stopped and said they were at the right place. In front of a door, Akoma said that the boss of the Theater of Maniacal Dreams was behind that door. He reached out to open it. With a big smile, he said they had reached it in 2 days and bet that the Eradication Ministry didn't expect that. The girl began trembling, asking if he was really talking about the boss monster. Seeing that huge monster, Akoma didn't say anything, just observing it. But deep down it seemed that after defeating that boss, he would finally be able to get that item he always wanted in his past life. He said they would end this, telling the girl to stick to the plan. Satsuki declared she would do that when a silhouette appeared behind them. Kaoru had been watching them from the shadows. The large clown began to move its hands while laughing maniacally. The protagonist made a gesture with his hand towards his companion. Both began running in parallel toward the boss. He said he would make the boss chase him, while Satsuki stayed waiting for him at a certain distance. Boss monsters have a large amount of HP, along with high regeneration, so they couldn't defeat it through a direct battle. Therefore, they would have to use some tricks. On the other hand, the boss was summoning a ball of light in its hands. It launched it toward its enemy. Akoma used gravity reduction, noticing it was about a meter away, making it possible to dodge with some ease. On the other side, the girl started to prepare. She quickly used mana drain. With that, she began draining the boss from behind. However, the monster sensed her presence. As soon as it noticed her, it was able to paralyze Satsuki completely. The protagonist yelled desperately, telling her to run and stay safe. He informed her that the boss would use its teleportation attack. He also explained that the attack couldn't be cancelled once cast and told her to run to the center. Suddenly, one of the clown's eyes began to glow. Satsuki saw the shadow of that large monster right behind her. Extremely close to her body, the boss had its mouth open, forming a large fireball. Quickly, it launched the attack at the girl. However, the protagonist rushed toward it, saying he was still there. The monster continued laughing maniacally. On the other hand, Aikoma managed to cancel out the fire attack. As she saw that, Satsuki assumed that attack was extremely fast. The protagonist said it was better for him to get away for now, jumping back onto the clown's back. The boss's eye glowed once again, and it turned towards its opponent. It used its teleportation ability to appear right in front of the boy. Anxious, Aikoma realized it had used the same ability twice in a row. Meanwhile, the giant clown was about to attack him. Worried, the girl screamed for her companion. Surprisingly, he used gravitational reversal. With that, a huge explosion occurred. The monster kept laughing, not quite understanding what had just happened. To its surprise, the protagonist was hanging upside down. However, the boss's eye glowed for a third time. Akoma said that it wasn't as easy as he imagined, but it was still all going according to plan. The girl recalled when she asked if they weren't really going to attack the boss monster. But the protagonist explained that the boss casts magical spells extremely quickly, and if they approach it slowly, they would be incinerated. However, if they attack from a distance, it will use its teleportation to quickly reach them within attack range. But this monster had a critical flaw. Back to the present, Satsuki used her mana draining ability again. The clown looked toward her. It widened its eyes, seeing an opportunity. Frightened, the girl said she was too close and that Aikoma wouldn't be able to protect her. Mentally, the protagonist said it was already time. The boss extended its palm, summoning an attack. The girl simply closed her eyes, not knowing what to do. However, the monster couldn't cast the magic. Smiling, the protagonist said the boss was out of mana. Its fire attack and teleportation move required a lot of mana, and on top of that, the clown couldn't attack without its abilities. The monster simply started running. However, Aikoma prepared to jump. He leaped toward the enemy. Using meteor fall, he landed directly on the boss's head. The protagonist warned that it couldn't escape his grasp. After all, it needed abilities just to move. Satsuki used her magic again, launching a ball of darkness at the boss. The monster began screaming in pain. With that, the protagonist increased the gravity and fell on top of it using his abilities. The portal boss had finally been defeated, generating 1043 experience points and also causing Aikoma to level up to level 30. His companion was extremely happy that they had defeated the boss, asking what they would do next. Aikoma said the gate would close soon, so they needed to leave before that. Satsuki asked what would happen if they got trapped. The protagonist told her not to rush as the gate would remain open for at least half the day, and they hadn't encountered any other monsters. Blushing, the girl said she hadn't known that. Suddenly, the clown's body began to glow. Confused, Satsuki asked what was happening, while the boy said that he had finally succeeded. In front of him was the reward for defeating the boss, the clown's blade. The protagonist said that the blade was perfect for a gravity master, and it could even be considered a hack. Hopa gave a slight smile, seeing that it would be easier than he had imagined. The girl asks if this is the equipment he was looking for. The blade increases attack by 11 points, along with a reduction in skill activation and mana consumption. Satsuki says that sometimes the weapon's stats seem average, but the protagonist repeats that in reality, it is incredible. He explains that the stats and damage are just a bonus. What really matters to him is the effect of the item. Since it can increase the overall power of classes that heavily depend on skills, it makes the item super powerful. The Gravity Master is vulnerable when switching between abilities with a high mana consumption. That's why this weapon can compensate for his weaknesses. The girl is surprised to learn all this. In her past life, the hunter who obtained this sword reached rank of thanks to this item. Moreover, he became a criminal for killing other hunters, so the protagonist is practically avoiding an incident by taking the sword. Meanwhile, Satsuki continues to observe the blade. She ponders the fact that he can compensate for his weaknesses. Suddenly, the girl becomes extremely nervous and asks if this means he no longer needs her. Aikoma insists that's not true since the item doesn't prevent him from running out of mana, and asks if she minds continuing to work together with him. Still staring at the blade, the girl says is fine with her. Aikoma doesn't fully understand while the girl gets angry, saying that now it's a competition. He says that after gaining a few levels, he needs to spend some skill points. Since he's aiming for the top, he will immerse himself in Gravity Master exclusive skills. Still uncertain, he decides what to choose. After some time, he says that it seems good to him, increasing his gravitational magic level to 2. After upgrading his manipulation to level 3, the protagonist notices that he gained another skill, the Super Gravity Bullet. He acknowledges that he relied on manipulation all this time, but now the item will make it easier to use magic. The protagonist gets excited, saying he wants to test all the skills. Suddenly, someone appears, saying they apparently arrived a little late. Kaoru comments that apparently the boy has already defeated the boss. With a wicked look, the man remarks that Aikoma must be quite strong. A bit nervous, the protagonist mentally admits this isn't the best time. He also notices that the guy is using stealth to hide and watch the fight. He's probably gathering information on the monster, assuming that both of them would die, mentally reaffirming that he's seen many people do this in his past life. He asks who the guy is while observing him more closely. At that moment, he realizes that the man is familiar, noticing that this is Kaoru, who took the blade in his past life, becoming the person who turned hunters into prey. Wondering how that's possible, Aikoma remembers that it took longer for the man to arrive at the portal in his past life. Shocked, the protagonist complains about what that psychopath is doing here, but then he understands. The guy must have been hiding in the monster's chamber the whole time so he could steal the drop. Kaoru was probably waiting for the victorious hunter to tire before attacking. Satsuki asks him what's wrong. Seeing the sword, the man asks if that's the loot, questioning if the protagonist managed to obtain it after defeating the boss. He then asks if he could take a look. The protagonist says of course, extending his hand. Mentally, the man calls him a fool. Looking at both of them, he says they're both naive and that he'll kill the first man. Then, he'll have some fun with the girl until he gets tired of her. As he approaches them, the psychopath says that they should be more careful. With that, he extends his hand while his eyes glow red. Drawing his dagger, he uses the life eraser skill. However, the protagonist quickly dodges. Kaoru turns around, excited. However, Aikoma was already swinging the sword. Even with his speed, the assassin manages to dodge the attack. At that moment, the protagonist realizes that he lost him. He claims he wanted to hit him before he noticed the situation, but unfortunately, the guy is too fast. While his companion looks shocked, he is forced to admit that Kaoru is much stronger than they are. The assassin admits that it's strange, asking the boy how he figured out what was going to happen. After all, he thought he was a fool, but apparently, the brat isn't as bad as he imagined. Satsuki asks the protagonist what's going on, but he tells her that this guy is an assassin who kills hunters. He also says that since he's an assassin, it makes him fast and stealthy. Kaoru asks how he discovered all this in such a short time. Changing his expression, he says that at least this saves him the trouble of explaining things. Telling them to hand over the item, he guarantees he'll spare both of them. The protagonist also changes the way he speaks and says that the worst part of dungeon crimes is that they leave no evidence. That's why he doesn't believe the man intends to let them live. Kaoru stays silent for a moment, but he soon smiles, stating that this is good. After all, the boy is smart and also very brave, even though he's weak. Getting ready, he declares that he wants to see the protagonist coughing up blood as he walks to hell. On the other hand, Aikoma shows no hesitation or anything of the sort. A little nervous, the protagonist admits that this is not good, since that is the serial killer who wiped out several hunters, the person who obtained the clown's blade in his past life. He confesses that he didn't consider the possibility that this guy could have been hiding in the portal all along. But when their swords clashed, he realized there was no way to defeat that lunatic. The girl calls him by his companion's name. Surprisingly, the protagonist shouts, telling her to stay behind him. Akoma explains that assassins are fast and deal extra critical damage when they ambush someone. That's why the guy will kill her when he gets close enough, since witches are a support class, not a close combat class. For that reason, she shouldn't get any closer, asking the girl to leave everything to him. Mentally, the protagonist acknowledges that it won't be easy fighting that lunatic alone, but he also can't let Satsuki face him. In addition to having the combat advantage, Kaoru has vast experience and abilities in battle. Moreover, the most important thing, the girl would panic if she saw the evil things he does. With that, he reuses his gravity reduction. Quickly, they clash their weapons. Even holding a unique item, the protagonist trembles. Kaoru says that he's very good with a sword. However, he warns that he has bad news. After all, the boy probably doesn't have experience in killing people. Unbalancing Ikoma, the lunatic says that, on the other hand, he has killed dozens of people and would never lose in battle. Mentally, Kaoru confesses that most people panic, but the protagonist prepares to attack again. Dodging the blow, he says that people can't handle the pressure of fighting others, so they tend to make mistakes. But he feels a little apprehensive as another cut comes extremely close to his body. That's when he realizes that this kid is not shocked at all. In fact, he seems to easily respond to his movements. Kaoru claims that this is ridiculous after all. There's no way a low-level kid is putting pressure on him. Meanwhile, a little nervous, Satsuki watches the situation unfold, realizing that her companion is not just intelligent in terms of knowledge. He's also incredibly strong in close combat. In his thoughts, Akoma admits that he is really happy to have gotten the blade in time, reducing the activation delay of his skills so he can quickly alternate between reducing and increasing gravity. He wouldn't be able to withstand his enemy's attacks, and he'd also be out of mana if the sword wasn't reducing consumption. Suddenly, Kaoru yells, saying that the fun ends there. He fills his cheeks with air as he prepares to show what he's capable of. With that, the guy spits something dark red. It was a poison needle. Luckily, the boy notices it coming toward him. Skillfully, he deflects it with his blade. The assassin is extremely shocked, declaring that this is impossible. Still disoriented, he sees that the protagonist is heading his way. He dodges, but Ikoma anticipated and blocked the needle. The guy ends up receiving a cut on his cheek. Irritated, he yells, saying that the brat is very lucky. Attacking back, Kaoru says that this won't happen again. On the other hand, Ikoma remains seemingly calm. He uses his life eraser skill to try to land the final blow. However, the protagonist activates his skill and increases the gravity, managing to take the blade from the enemy's hand. The assassin feels pain as he stands still. The protagonist says that the guy has a skill that allows him to accelerate his arm toward the target's neck. This makes the lunatic even more shocked, confused about how his opponent was able to figure all of this out. Ikoma states that it's this simplicity that makes the man's movements extremely easy to predict. Moreover, he says that if it were him, he wouldn't use this kind of ability against certain enemies. Suddenly, Satsuki starts preparing his skill. She uses her shadow sphere. Kaoru watches the attack coming from behind. He loses his balance a little. When he looks ahead, he sees that the boy is raising his sword. The protagonist quickly swings his blade, making a cut on his face. The assassin begins to scream, mumbling about his eye. Trying to stop the bleeding, he wonders how the brat dares to cut his eye. While watching him, the protagonist realizes that in addition to being able to respond to his movements, he can also deal with his tricks. He also matched his speed using gravity manipulation. His only current problem is mana. Since he doesn't have much left after fighting the boss, he will soon run out, and when that happens, they'll be completely finished. As he runs toward his enemy, Kaoru promises he will finish the boy off. Grabbing his knife again, the assassin tries to prepare himself while feeling scared, complaining about why it's so hard to deal with that kid. After all, he knows everything from his movements to his tricks. Not to mention, he's so powerful. While seeing Ikoma moving from side to side, he says that this isn't right, noticing that Ikoma is heading toward his blind spot. Trying to dodge the protagonist's strike, he uses shadow steps. Getting more and more exhausted, Ikoma starts to get worried. With that, he launches another cut. Kaoru claims that the boy has the advantage and wonders why there's still so much desperation. But then he begins to laugh, stating that he's glad he let him finish off the boss. He says out loud that the boy is quite strong, adding that he would have become a hero if he managed to leave there alive, stamping his foot on the ground and laughing like a madman. The guy says that, unfortunately, that will never happen, promising that the brat will die right there. Both he and his companion watch this with some apprehension. They continue exchanging blows frantically, but now the protagonist is a little more exhausted. Trying to help, Satsuki summons another shadow sphere. The attack heads toward the assassin, but he uses his shadow steps to dodge. The girl is extremely frightened to see that he managed to dodge all of them. Besides fear, she is caught up in her own thoughts, admitting that she's not being helpful at all. Watching her companion fight frantically against a stronger enemy, she realizes that even with Ikoma having the advantage, the boy has started to be pressured by the opponent. The lunatic continues shouting, claiming that he loves this. Still exchanging blows, he says it's not every day you find an enemy you don't know if you'll kill or die against. He asks them to enjoy the battle battle as much as possible while it lasts. Kakoma tries to land another cut, but the psychopath manages to dodge. The protagonist is getting more and more nervous and anxious. Taking advantage of the weight of his sword, the boy uses his leg to try to land a blow. He manages to hit an attack on the opponent's chin. The guy gets even angrier, but quickly tries to distance himself. Kaoru says that apparently he has many tricks up his sleeve. Mentally, Ikoma confirms that he can make his body lighter with the gravity reduction skill, perform acrobatic movements and attack. Thanks to this skill, he can dodge practically anything. However, his enemy has realized that he is running out of mana. The guy continues laughing maniacally while watching the boy. In his mind, he says that now Ikoma is using an active skill to increase his physical abilities, but you won't be able to keep it up for much longer. And that will be the moment he finishes off the brat. The assassin says that apparently the protagonist won't last much longer. With that, he resumes attacking in every possible way. In the middle of this sequence, Ikoma realizes his mana is gone, and this will be his final attack. As the boy jumps, Kaoru is surprised, not knowing how he's doing that. Looking up, he wonders if this is part of the boy's abilities. But the assassin begins to say that it won't matter, as you won't be able to move in the air. But the protagonist claims that he has one chance to use the skill to increase gravity, so he must put everything into this chance. Gripping his sword tightly, he says he will put all his remaining mana into this attack. With that, he uses Meteor Fall, pushing his opponent to the ground. Straining with all his might, Kaoru asks what kind of incredible power that is. Realizing that no matter how much force he applies, he can't throw him back. Unable to hold back his opponent's blade any longer, the guy receives a large cut on his chest. The protagonist is extremely tired while being notified that his mana has hit 0. His companion approaches him, calling out to him. Happily, she says that Ikoma has won. However, he simply apologizes. Fainting, the boy continues apologizing to Satsuki. Right behind him, severely injured Kaoru gets up. While cursing him, the assassin says the brat must be out of mana by now. Kneeling on the ground, unable to move, Ikoma tells his companion to run. Using the little strength he has left, he says the guy won't be able to reach her. But for that, the girl needs to start running now. Even his opponent admits that he's an incredible guy since he must be exhausted after facing the boss. And yet, he continued fighting him to keep Kaoru from getting close to the girl. This leaves Satsuki even more shocked. Meanwhile, the lunatic says he can't believe Ikoma was facing him to protect such a pathetic person, admitting that he's starting to admire him. The protagonist is getting increasingly irritated by this, and the guy still says that he's impressed that Ikoma hasn't told him his full name. On the other hand, Satsuki is caught in those words, wondering if she was really dragging Ikoma down. With tears in her eyes, she admits that Aoi was right and that she should have given up on being a hunter. After all, her companion would never have lost to a guy like that. Remembering when he saved her, the girl mentally calls for his help again. Suddenly, something changes in her. The girl has a different expression, and the air around her seems to change. The protagonist states that he would never tell his full name to worms like Kaoru. The guy says that's a shame, claiming he really likes him, declaring that he is the first person he truly admires. That's why he will remember his face. Raising his dagger, he prepares himself. Surprisingly, the girl summons another shadow sphere. Even the assassin feels that this one is different. He starts to dodge, saying she won't hit him with that. But suddenly, he feels pain. Satsuki has struck him with her staff. The guy curses the girl mentally since he's already badly injured. Moreover, she attacked from his blind spot. The girl runs toward her companion, while Ikoma asks what she's doing, reminding her that he told her to run. Using some ability, Satsuki says she will never run again, since he convinced her that she has the power to make things work. With that, she uses mana transfer. Thus, she manages to restore some of his strength. Seeing all that energy, the assassin doesn't fully understand what's happening, but he screams, warning that he will kill her first. Quickly, the guy activates Life Eraser. Ikoma looks directly at him, but she shows no fear, only a certain indifference. The protagonist thanks her for saving both of them. He is now on his feet and has stopped his enemy's attack. Ikoma starts to recover some of his mana. Shocked, Kaoru wonders if his opponent has already recovered enough mana to use that ability again. The guy says that this is beyond the limits, but the protagonist says that from the beginning, they were a team. This was even before he ambushed them. Moreover, he recovered his mana while Kaoru continues severely injured, declaring that now he wants to know who will win that fight. Quickly, he attacks his opponent again. The lunatic gets scared while trying to dodge. However, the protagonist doesn't give any openings and increases his strength and speed. The guy claims it's not over yet and begins to use dark magic, summoning a red circle in front of him. Satsuki prepares to face it. However, Ikoma tells her to stay still, and surprisingly, he summons his gravitational magic, telling his enemy that his magic is too slow to use against opponents, and that in his past life he used the clown's blade to compensate for the delay in casting such an attack. Seeing that Kaoru says this is his end, a large black sphere, extremely similar to a black hole, heads toward him, and so he was struck head-on. Kaoru lamented his defeat at the hands of a low-level boy. Ikoma remained standing with his weapon, while Kaoru lay among the rubble. The government still had no laws for incidents in portals, so the Ministry of Monster Eradication ignored them. Because of that, an unspoken rule was established not to mention such cases, but since Satsuki was present, Aikoma would have to act properly. He declared that he would keep the man under observation. Then he instructed Satsuki to leave the portal and contact the ministry, and she promptly agreed. Monsters did not appear in already cleared portals, which made it safe to send the girl alone. While Kaoru remained wounded, Aikoma kept a close watch. He was breathing heavily, admitting that he had underestimated the other because of his level. Even so, he realized the boy had a great deal of battle experience and questioned his identity. Later, Aikoma and Satsuki were sitting in a cafe with other people. Soon, his phone showed news about the arrest of a serial hunter-killer. He looked at his phone, aware that the ministry had managed to capture Kaoru. Satsuki commented that the agents hadn't asked any questions. Aikoma explained that crimes in portals are hard to determine, and the ministry rarely investigates unless they know exactly who is responsible. The chaos caused by the portals and the resulting countermeasures had affected the nation, reducing crime and leading government organizations to monopolize industries as a contingency plan. In addition, the abrupt change in society increased poverty, but the government offered no assistance to those people. Satsuki remarked that although she knew the laws were not followed in portals, she hadn't expected to meet a serial killer. He asked if she was scared, warning that she would keep encountering such situations if she continued as a hunter. As he looked at her, he recognized that things were hard at the moment. Still, he added that there were other professions if she no longer wanted to be a hunter. Satsuki held her cup and admitted she would be lying if she said she wasn't scared. Aikoma thanked the girl for her help. She explained that in the portal she had felt like his comrade, a development she valued, and that even with future challenges, she wanted to stay by his side and work hard. With that, she smiled. Aikoma replied that if she truly felt that way, he extended his hand, saying he would count on her. Satsuki nodded with a smile. Then they shook hands. Aikoma reflected that she was a pleasant person. In turn, Satsuki reflected that she was naive, had trouble keeping up with everything, and had never been proactive in helping others. She concluded that because of that, Aoi had never liked her, and that she herself didn't like that side of her own personality either. She thought she might become a better version of herself, while an image of her and Aikoma in the portal was shown. Even knowing her shortcomings, she asked to keep hunting in portals with him. Aikoma reacted with a slight smile, thinking she was a very pleasant person. However, he felt uncomfortable with the situation. While Satsuki radiated joy at the table, he noticed she was more talkative than he had imagined. Two people looked in their direction, and one drew the other's attention. The one had held a phone and asked if they were the dude everyone was talking about who had defeated the boss monster in a day and captured the serial killer. With that, Aikoma noticed the place had suddenly become crowded. Soon, Matsunomiya approached and said that the two of them had become quite famous in the guild. While typing on his phone, he informed them that although their names were not yet known, all the videos and blogs were talking about them. The phone screen displayed information and a video about the new hunter, but the complete information did not seem to be available. Even without mentioning names, Utsunomiya explained that everyone there understood the hint and seemed interested in what they had done. Then he pointed at Aikoma and Satsuki, saying he knew they would become famous one day, making them step back slightly. He went on, declaring that he would not leave until they joined him. Suddenly, Aoi appeared and scolded him, announcing her arrival and mentioning the Thunder Knights. Aoi smiled at Satsuki, saying she had been looking for her everywhere. She took the girl's hands, apologized, and admitted she had been harsh with her days earlier. She explained that she had reflected and realized she needed her, because they were friends and the end of the previous situation must have been painful for both of them. Aoi smiled again, asking how much Satsuki had earned for clearing the undeveloped portal and noting that she must have leveled up a lot. She started to say she could count on her, but Satsuki interrupted, suggesting to Aikoma that they leave because of the growing crowd, and he agreed. Even so, Aoi and Utsunomiya tried to stop them, asking them not to leave. Nonetheless, they kept moving away, passing by a car. Satsuki asked Aikoma if Aoi wasn't his friend, and he questioned whether she was sure about leaving. Coldly, Satsuki stated that the girl was not her friend. She commented on the large number of views on the videos. The phone displayed a video with millions of views about the novice hunter confronting a killer. Satsuki explained that people filmed in portals because they liked to watch videos about them. However, Aikoma considered the practice dangerous because the videos focus only on views and profits. She reacted with surprise, asking him if she should unsubscribe from channels she followed. Someone's phone showed that they had reached 1 million views that month. Meanwhile, Hoshina saw the news about a mysterious novice hunter who had defeated a serial killer. She complained that the video had far more views than her latest one, and at night explained that viral videos tend to draw more audience. Hoshina decided that she would create a viral video too, unwilling to believe the attention the hunter had received for clearing the portal. Sitting among the knights, she expressed her dislike for the hunter. The scene shifts to Aikoma and Satsuki, sitting at a table in an indoor setting. She asks if the weapon he is referring to is for her. Aikoma confirms, explaining that it is more effective to face powerful monsters in order to evolve, rather than many weak ones as illustrated. Thus, he stresses the importance of having a good weapon, especially an expensive one to increase damage, since enchanters have low attack stats. Next, he suggests that they look for portals where they can earn money. Satsuki tries to refuse, saying that he doesn't need to work so hard for a weapon for her, and apologizes. However, Aikoma reassures her, saying there is no need to apologize, as a good weapon for his partner will benefit him as well. Hearing the word partner, She reacts with surprise and delight. Soon, she expresses her excitement, confirming that they are partners, while he reflects on her naivety and on not wanting her to be manipulated. Satsuki asks where they can find such a portal, and Ikoma points to the tablet in front of him. He reveals that he already has a portal in mind, showing her something on the tablet. The portal he has in mind is the tomb of the ancient king, described as a new and undeveloped place with a high chance of rewards. While working at the computer, it is revealed that special locations are rare portals, and no one knows that the tomb of the ancient king is one of them. Ikoma reveals that he has this knowledge because he studied all the information about portals in his previous life. It is said that selling the items found there is lucrative, and he wants to trade them for money. In addition, it is possible to find rare items in portals like this one, illustrated by a detailed weapon. He comments that there won't be much competition there, so they can take their time and grab everything they find. Satsuki notices that Ikoma is laughing in a peculiar way. Next, they approach the entrance of the tomb of the ancient king. As they walk through the mist, Satsuki turns back anxiously while he moves forward. Suddenly, a level 29 skeleton soldier appears. Ikoma invokes his power to reduce the enemy's gravity. He then attacks the skeleton with his sword. He moves swiftly, and Satsuki watches the scene. She thinks that Ikoma looks very skilled in battle. Ikoma states that direct attacks are not effective against undead monsters. Then he instructs his partner to cover him with long-range spells, and she quickly agrees and begins to chant, making a magic circle appear on the ground. He leaps over the skeleton as the monster strikes. Soon, the skeleton is struck by a shadow ball summoned by Satsuki. Ikoma watches the message on the screen, which indicates he has gained 240 experience points. The skeleton's remains vanish, leaving behind a glow. Satsuki notices that the monster dropped a demon stone and an item, and Ikoma says they got lucky when he sees the weapon gleaming on the ground. She is surprised to hear that the item is worth about 400,000 yen. She questions the value, and he explains that weapons like that are not easy to find, and even without flashy effects, it is worth a lot. Then she asks what their goal is in terms of money, and Ikoma replies that they need 3 million yen for a powerful weapon that will last for a while. Satsuki reacts in astonishment at hearing the amount of 3 million yen, while he explains that rare portals with easy items are hard to find, so they should make the most of it. In addition, Ikoma also mentions that it will take time to move items back and forth. He explains that they will explore and carry items in and out of the portal over the next 3 days. Surprised, Satsuki calculates that this means 1 million yen per day. She comments that such an amount is far beyond the salaries she knows. Soon the sounds of battle indicate that someone is fighting nearby. Ikoma decides that they should go check it out. A little farther ahead, a knight and Hoshina are about to face a mummy. The knight charges and attacks the mummy with his weapon. He tells Hoshina that she can finish the monster, and she asks the manager if the camera is ready. The knight, who is also the manager, confirms that everything is ready with the camera. Then he instructs the girl to be quick and activate the fire magic. Hoshina gets ready, wielding her weapon with a fiery aura around it, while the camera films her. Soon, she leaps toward the mummy and strikes the monster with her flaming weapon. Thus, Hoshina finishes off the enemy, which falls to the ground. She presents herself with a smile to the camera. She announces that she decided to try an undeveloped portal that day. Hoshina claims to have killed the monster with a single blow of her sword, concluding that clearing the portal might be easier than she thought. Ikoma and Satsuki, watching the scene, realize that she is a portal streamer. Satsuki reveals that she knows Hoshina and has seen her channel a few times. Ikoma watches with a look of disapproval. She remembers that he doesn't think Hoshina's behavior is a good idea, since she only talks about views and profits, questioning whether she realizes how dangerous portals are. Satsuki remembers that Ikoma does not like portal streamers. Hoshina notices something and asks in confusion. She complains to Ikoma and Satsuki, who are at the top of the stairs, visible in the recording. Hoshina scolds them, saying they are standing in front of the camera and ruined her chance to get lots of views. Ikoma scolded Hoshina for only finishing off the monster that someone else had practically killed, and she replied that it was part of the show. She further explained that in the show business, it is not about skill, but about looking charming. Then she asked the manager if they could save a recording, but he replied that it would be impossible to edit them out. With that, Hoshina lamented that the perfect footage for her introduction could no longer be used because of their presence. Right after, she asked if they didn't know who she was and introduced herself as Hoshina Saionji, revealing she was a portal streamer. So Ikoma apologized and introduced himself as Ikoma Ichinos, also introducing Satsuki Kisaragi, who bowed. He then stated that he had not intended to ruin her recording. Hoshina dismissed the matter, saying she would leave them aside because she was busy looking for new material. Afterwards, Ikoma asked why someone would want to be a portal streamer, and she answered that the reason was obvious. She said it all boiled down to money while making an oak gesture. Ikoma narrated that portals are exciting and provocative, offering many ways to gain views, and that companies pay a lot for advertisements. Hoshina continued, saying she would become a celebrity if she gained enough popularity, but he warned her that being a decent hunter was not easy, and that she should stop before she got hurt. She then raised her voice, questioning what he had just said. Ikoma warned that portals of that level were dangerous, suggesting she take her celebrity games elsewhere. He also stated that if she didn't take things seriously, she would regret it when her skills were truly needed. Hoshina remained silent, staring ahead. Then she complained that Ikoma had not only ruined her footage but was now mocking her as well. Satsuki said he didn't mean to be so harsh, but he replied that he was only offering friendly advice. Then the manager tried to calm her down, telling her not to listen to him, and she answered that she knew that she should just ignore haters. Soon after, she ordered the manager to start recording, surprising him. Hoshina asked if his name was Ikoma as she stepped closer, saying he must be quite confident in his skills to give friendly advice to others. With that, she proposed a game to see who could gather more demon stones, stating that if she won, he would have to take back what he said and apologize. She also declared that she would film everything and upload it. Ikoma narrated that she even said he didn't need to worry, as she would put a small blur over his face, showing that a random hater had picked a fight. Hoshina finished by promising that if he won, she would give him whatever he wanted. With that offer, Ikoma accepted, while Satsuki called out in surprise. Hoshina laughed and declared that it was settled, and that she would see him at the portal entrance in 3 hours. She smiled, warning that he had better not run away. The passage stretched out ahead, lit by torches on the wall. With that, the manager asked why she had challenged him, and Hoshina answered while imagining how amazing a video of her defeating that random hater would be. She also expressed that this was exactly the kind of viral success she needed, and that they would make a lot of money that month. Then she said that, above all, she wanted to teach him a lesson, and thought about how he had said she wasn't serious, determined to make him take his words back. Ikoma and Satsuki watched a shambling mummy monster ahead. He then launched an attack called Meteor Drop, which struck the monster. Ikoma saw that he gained 364 experience points, leveled up to 31, and earned 3 skill points, thinking that undead monsters were quite slow. He said the best way to defeat monsters was to dodge their attacks with reverse gravity. Then he finished the monsters off with the ability to increase gravity. With a glow, a demon stone appeared when it was shattered. Ikoma celebrated that they had gotten another one, and an item called Ancient Relic Gauntlet Rank D appeared. Satsuki asked why he had accepted her challenge. Ikoma explained that he didn't like the idea of her making a video of him losing the bet, and that he wasn't going to lose, hoping she would stop filming in portals if she lost by a large margin. He also remarked that this wasn't the real problem, and that it would be difficult to transport all the items if they kept finding so much loot. Thus, the two advanced toward a bright light ahead. They came across a large statue of a sphinx, and Ikoma asked if they had reached a dead end. The sphinx statue seemed to come to life as its eyes lit up with an intense glow. Satsuki looked at the statue in surprise. Suddenly, the exit was sealed, leaving no way out. Ikoma declared that they had triggered a trap. He said that portals contain various traps and creatures around them, where most tend to be quite simple, but sometimes they grant valuable items, especially since they were in a rare portal. The creature with the glowing eyes demands answers to prove the knowledge of those present, declaring that it will continue questioning until they can no longer respond. It then warns that it will take the lives of those who fail to answer at least 3 questions correctly. Soon, Satsuki asks if that creature is a monster. Ikoma observes that a battle may begin if they fail the creature's requirements and warns them to be prepared. She is surprised, but he assures her they need not worry because he is confident in his knowledge. As the creature prepares itself, its eyes shine as it announces the first question. It asks how many experience points are needed to level up from 1 to 10. Ikoma immediately provides the correct answer, surprising Satsuki beside him. The creature confirms the answer, and Ikoma realizes he needs only 2 more correct, glad he had gathered information in his past life. Next comes its 19th question about a monster with 3 heads and 4 legs, and Ikoma promptly answers: the frightening doll. Sitting beside Satsuki, he asks the creature if it truly intends to keep questioning, reminding it that it had said it would not stop until he could no longer answer. Watching the situation, Satsuki suggests maybe he should purposely miss a question to help the creature. Visibly agitated, the creature announces the 20th question. It asked about a monster that leaves a trail of green slime, and Ikoma answers that no portals currently contain such a creature. He explains that green slime is only made through alchemy, and that he would not fall for such a trick. The creature cries out that he has answered all 20 questions correctly, unable to believe the result. As stones fall around them, the creature expresses its astonishment at Ikoma. Through his narration, he recounts that the door finally opened and the statue seemed confused, as if it had been giving an open book test, and it apologizes, calling him the returned. Satsuki points at the statue and tells him there is something inside it. Ikoma reacts with surprise upon seeing a glowing ring identified as a rank B storage ring. He holds the ring, describing it as an extremely useful item that rarely appears. She asks if the item is truly that valuable, and Ikoma explains that with the right buyer, it could be worth between 10 and 100 million yen. Satsuki expresses her surprise, asking if the item is really that rare. Ikoma admits he did not expect to find something so rare in a portal of that level. He wonders if the reward was given because he answered all the questions correctly, while images of the irritated creature appear in his mind. Satsuki worries about the time loss and their delay in the wager, but he explains that the ring will save them time by helping carry items. Ikoma smiles, saying that now they are in a much better situation. As they walk, he says that the monsters are not difficult to defeat. He attacks a skeletal warrior with his weapon, explaining that they are resistant to close attacks. so he closes in to strike them. Satsuki, in turn, casts spells from a distance to bring the monsters down. Hoshina reports that mummies are slow, allowing her to use gravity manipulation for powerful attacks against them. She adds that mummies are great targets for mana draining. Akoma says that the likelihood of having obtained rare items in that portal is incredible, noting that he went from level 31 to 33 and acquired 2 rare weapons. He uses the ring to store the items, activating the storage ability. He comments to Satsuki that the new item is very useful and that they have already collected 6 demon stones, enough to win the wager, but that they are there to make money. Akoma smiles and suggests they hunt all the undead monsters before time runs out. The scene shifts to Hoshina, panting, celebrating that they finally brought down the monster. She explains that these monsters are quite troublesome because they never stop attacking and are very resilient. The knight remarks that they have only killed 2 monsters so far, and that it is taking longer than they expected. He agrees that on any other day they would have been done by now, then mutters that they need not worry because their opponents are probably not doing any better. Hoshina thinks about paying off the opponents to pretend they lost the bet, but the warrior beside her scolds her, saying they should stop making fake videos. Akoma, accompanied by Satsuki, approaches Hoshina, who is surprised and comments that she must be doing quite well if she has time to sit around. She snaps back, saying she is fine and hopes he is managing to keep up, then suggests she might let it slide if he apologized. Akoma ignores the suggestion and activates the storage ring to show the items. Hoshina cries out that she can't believe what she's seeing as she is bathed in the glow of the many items and demon stones emerging from the ring. Shocked, she asks how he managed to get all those demon stones and items, also questioning the bracelet and his ability. Akoma smiles and asks what the problem is. Speechless, Hoshina recalls her own earlier suggestion that she might forgive him if he apologized. Irritated, she declares that the contest is not over and orders her manager to follow her as she storms off. Satsuki asks why he was so rude to Hoshina, and he replies that he was only trying to motivate her. He then adds that he hopes she does not get too motivated and end up acting recklessly. Satsuki asked Akoma about his dislike for portal streamers. He explained that the problem was not simply dislike, but their lack of seriousness toward the risks of being a hunter. He went on saying that a hunter can die easily inside a portal, and therefore no one should treat that lightly, citing Hoshina as an example of a streamer chasing fame. Akoma stated that if she wasn't truly committed as a hunter, she would regret her choice when facing real danger. To win the bet, Hoshina would need to do something that completely changed the situation. She soon realized that he would certainly win the contest of demon stones, so she would need to convince him otherwise. Her companion warned her that they had gone too far and were running low on mana. However, she insisted that they needed mana for the return trip and therefore couldn't give up yet. Then she demanded to know who claimed she didn't take the hunter's life seriously. 8 years earlier, a city was in flames amidst explosions and screams. At that time, the world lived in complete chaos and each portal incident caused far more casualties than nowadays with a massive monster lurking. A young Hoshina begged for help. She and a younger boy were in danger while an orc finished off the parents of both and she screamed for help. Running, she held tightly onto the boy's hand. Meanwhile, people hid in makeshift compartments inside a hall and some cared for smaller children. 2 people watched the girl and the boy who sat there having just lost their parents. She held a phone watching a broadcast about the 5th hunter in the country to reach Ranka, Mrs. Kwan. At that moment, Hoshina hated the helplessness she felt in the face of tragedy, and so she decided to become stronger. She explained that she never imagined she would come so far or speak in front of a camera, but that it made her happy. She was glad to be able to give hope to others who lived in fear of monsters. She added that she never dreamed of being as powerful as that hunter, but she wanted to be like her, someone who offered hope and encouragement to her viewers. Determined, she stated that she would not let anyone say she wasn't committed enough and that she would make Akoma apologize. Soon after, she told her companion that they didn't have good footage from that place and that they should look for a larger monster. She then headed toward a spot where noise was coming from, saying it sounded like there was a big monster, exactly what they needed. While running, she said she had always been lucky. Her companion praised her as she thought about moving forward. Suddenly, she emerged from behind a wall, declaring that a good filming opportunity had appeared. In front of her stood a large golden monster, resembling a pharaoh with several weapons, standing over a fallen person. An information screen revealed that the monster was an undead pharaoh, level 40, the boss of the portal tomb of the ancient king. Terrified, she said it couldn't be possible that a rank B boss monster was there, realizing it wasn't something she could handle. Then her companion stated that someone had probably lured the monster there while trying to escape. He added that they needed to leave immediately, forgetting the videos and the bet. Hoshina agreed, saying the monster would not be able to follow them through a narrow path. The person lying on the ground cried out for help. She saw herself as small and powerless in that tragedy as an orc attacked her and the image of Mrs. Kuon appeared before her eyes. At that instant, she said she finally understood why she felt drawn to that message. Then she finished by saying she didn't want to run away when someone needed her help. While running, she told her companion she was sorry. She then blocked an attack from the monster with her sword. She turned to the person begging for help and ordered them to start running because she would hold the monster off. The person thanked her as the monster swung his weapons violently. Then her companion countered the attack, declaring that the creature's blows wouldn't work against him. Soon he added added with enthusiasm that he was Hoshina's #1 fan, leaving her visibly confused. The manager declared that he would not flee and would not leave her behind. He admitted he wasn't very skilled in combat, but he could serve as bait while the pharaoh advanced menacingly. She was breathing heavily as she continued defending the fallen manager. The warrior activated his shield, which manifested around him in a bright blue glow. However, the monster delivered a swift attack with its weapon. The blow struck the warrior's shield, shattering it into pieces. Shocked, Hoshina realized the monster was stronger and faster than them in every way. Thus, she concluded that this was what made a monster worthy of being called a boss. She was visibly shaken as the massive enemy advanced with overwhelming presence. The pharaoh brandished his 2 weapons before him. Faced with the scene, she seemed apprehensive. Then Akoma appeared and stated that her actions had been reckless. The pharaoh unleashed a powerful strike, which was blocked by a barrier. When she opened her eyes, she saw Akoma holding her. Surprised, she asked how he had gotten there. He explained that he had come back in case she did something like this, because the hunter she saved had told him everything. Akoma let out a sigh. He reiterated that she would regret it if she didn't take the role of a hunter seriously and reminded her that if she won, he would have to take back what he said and apologize. With a slight smile, he declared that she had won the bet. While holding her in his arms, he apologized for having said she wasn't serious. Akoma then declared that he would reduce gravity. He attacked the monster while still holding Hoshina in his arms. Soon, the creature advanced and he blocked the attack. He explained that he had deflected the impact of the weapon using his gravity reduction ability, creating distance between them and the enemy. Meanwhile, Satsuki summoned a shadow sphere, directing it at the monster. The creature was struck by the energy. Satsuki revealed that she had managed to distract it from Akoma, even though her attack caused no damage. He noticed the presence of 2 injured hunters and reflected that he rarely faced battles with any advantage, especially not against a boss monster of such a high level. The level 40 undead pharaoh displayed its overwhelming presence. Akoma remarked that he could use his weapon to enhance his gravity abilities, but admitted there was no simple strategy to defeat that opponent. He reflected that the odds were heavily against them. But Hoshina explained that the other 2 hunters were there because of her insistence, and therefore she could not abandon them. Akoma added that he didn't mind an occasional challenge. He then asked Satsuki to help replenish Hoshina's mana. Soon after, he declared that he would try to distract the monster while Hoshina recovered. He noted that Hoshina had used fire magic and concluded that she was a swordswoman who fought with her weapon but covered her weaknesses with minor spells. He kept analyzing, imagining that she probably also possessed a healing ability. With that, she could heal herself while he kept the monster busy. He thought about how his gravity reduction ability increased his speed at the cost of power. Akoma moved swiftly, observing that the good news was that for now, he didn't need to worry about attacking the creature. The level 33 hunter stated that he only needed to keep dodging, though he admitted the enemy's level was far too high for him. Even so, he believed the gravity ability would be enough to keep him out of reach. At that moment, the injured hunter asked to help Hoshina, and Akoma replied that he could count on him. Akoma leaped to dodge a strike, explaining that the boss monster was huge, fast, and had 4 arms. Then the creature attacked, slamming the ground with tremendous force. The pharaoh blinked its eyes, and Akoma reflected that it had been an extremely fast and powerful strike, wondering if it was the creature's finishing blow. He concluded that he would have to stay alert not to be caught by that ability. Meanwhile, the fallen hunter questioned whether he was still alive, feeling his body heavy and struggling to move. Still on the ground, he asked about Hoshina and then realized the fight was still ongoing. The monster charged forward and Akoma moved with agility, soaring over it and surprising the wounded hunter. Without understanding, the hunter wondered how Akoma was moving so fast, still trying to reach his camera. Akoma defended against an attack by running along the creature's forearm. With a quick movement, he lunged at the monster. The knight filmed Akoma with his camera, exclaiming that it was a glorious scene. Akoma reflected that none of his attacks were working as the gravity reduction ability also weakened his power. He also thought that the monster's level was far too high for him, and that he wouldn't be able to bring it down alone. However, he believed there was still a way. With a surge of energy, Satsuki and Hoshina used reverse mana drain. Then Hoshina exclaimed that this should be more than enough and activated her healing ability. With a determined smile, she declared she was ready to fight again. Satsuki informed him she would provide support from the rear, while Akoma thought that now they had a real chance to fight. However, he also noted that they were still at a huge disadvantage. He concluded that if the fight dragged on, they wouldn't last long against a high-level boss monster. Akoma faced the imposing undead pharaoh. Then the figure attacked several times, but none of its strikes landed. He began to observe the surroundings. When he noticed, he was standing before a smaller creature, until Satsuki realized that he was surrounded. She extended her hand and used her ability to reduce gravity, making the statue lighter. Then she quickly hurled the statue toward the pharaoh. Akoma shouted to Satsuki, telling her to attack the creature's mask. She answered promptly, readying her weapon as a blue aura enveloped her. She launched a sphere of dark energy that collided with the figure. The smoke cleared, revealing the monster's eye region. Satsuki saw that the attack had caused no damage but understood the information she needed. With that, Akoma concluded that the mask served as a powerful protection, making the creature's face its weak point. Quickly, Hoshina moved to the pharaoh's blind spot. Even with the creature's intense attacks, she persisted, lamenting how difficult it was to dodge 4 arms at once. She reflected on how hard it was to get close even with everyone's support and wondered how Ikoma managed to dodge and counterattack alone. Then he called out to her, instructing her to use her magic to destroy the mask while he would stop the enemy's movements. He explained that his weapon had an ability capable of damaging or even shattering the target's armor. Hoshina nodded and activated her skill, causing her sword to shine intensely. However, she questioned if he could really stop such a gigantic monster. Ikoma propelled himself and quickly positioned himself above the pharaoh to strike. He reasoned that the creature's strength lay in its 4 arms and that if he could stop them, its movements would be limited. He realized that this would make it vulnerable to attacks. With that, he activated his gravity ability to restrain the figure. He said he had used his technique specifically to pin down the pharaoh's arms rather than its torso. With the creature's shoulders immobilized, it could no longer use its arms to break the bindings. Ikoma reflected that this strategy only worked against large monsters with multiple arms on each shoulder. As he watched the figure being restrained by his ability, he prepared for the next move. At the same time, Hoshina focused, thinking she could finally reach her target. She unleashed her skill, sending a powerful burst of energy. The undead creature was struck directly by the attack. The pharaoh's mask cracked and shattered into pieces, revealing its face. The creature's face was exposed, showing multiple eyes and deformed mouth. They both watched the monster, Ikoma noting that its weakness had finally been revealed, while Hoshina recoiled in fear at the creature's appearance. Ikoma rushed toward the figure, determined to bring it down while it was still bound. He then reversed gravity, leaping to avoid the pharaoh's attack and shattering the ground around them on impact. He foresaw that the creature would use all its arms for a final strike and would lower its head as it gathered them. He realized that this movement would expose its greatest weakness. Then he exclaimed that this would be the end, delivering a decisive blow against the enemy. At that instant, he activated his skill, Meteor Drop, unleashing a powerful attack that struck directly at the pharaoh's head. With a smile, Ikoma held the golden ring and discovered that he had leveled up after defeating the boss monster. Meanwhile, Hoshina was helping the injured warrior on the ground, while another only watched. A glow appeared on the body of the defeated monster, and Satsuki noticed something beside Ikoma. She called him over to show a magic weapon, revealing his powers and a brief description. Ikoma offered the weapon to Satsuki, saying it was perfect for her, and that they wouldn't need to buy one. Surprised, Satsuki asked if she could really keep the weapon. He reminded her that she had helped him get his own weapon, and mentioned that Hoshina should also receive something. Hoshina reassured Ikoma, telling him not to worry. She then thanked him, saying he had saved their lives. She offered him the item and the demon stone, but asked for something in return. Hoshina asked if they could cancel the bet. Ikoma reminded her that she had won. Acknowledging her skill, he admitted she was a respectable hunter, and took back what he had said before. Surprised, Hoshina reacted to his words. Ikoma and Satsuki smiled at each other. Soon after, he suggested she should stop being a streamer to become a better hunter, which left Satsuki indignant. While the armored warrior stated it was impossible to make a living as a hunter, Ikoma contradicted him. He recalled that Hoshina's father had died and her mother was injured, leaving her responsible for 5 younger siblings. Hoshina tried to silence the armored warrior, but he continued speaking about how hard she worked to support her family. For that reason, Ikoma apologized for having made assumptions without knowing her situation. She turned away, saying she enjoyed what she did, and that you shouldn't misunderstand. Hoshina explained that her goal was to make people smile, because portals frightened them, showing examples of her work. Ikoma then smiled and said he would support her. Hoshina was surprised by his reaction. She remained silent and blushed. 4 people, including Ikoma, Satsuki, and Hoshina, spoke with 2 uniformed men holding documents. The scene shifted, and Hoshina asked about the state of the camera, remembering it was expensive and could capture fast movements, hoping it wasn't broken. One of the warriors confirmed that the camera was working, which relieved her. Even so, the warrior complained that they had barely gotten demon stones or recordings from that portal despite almost dying there. Hoshina thought they maybe should have asked for the boss monster's demon stone, but said she wouldn't accept anything out of pity. She kept asking if the camera hadn't recorded anything useful, begging them to tell her there was something. The camera then showed a recording of Ikoma in action. Later, at the Morima branch of the Hunters Guild, Ikoma sat reading a book while Satsuki watched something on her phone. Excitedly, she called him over to see a video. Ikoma suggested that instead of searching for information in videos, it would be better to get it directly from experts. The phone screen showed an image of him with the title, "The Rumored Supreme Hunter Appears." A video of Ikoma facing the monster posted by Hoshina was gaining many views. In the comments, people praised Ikoma's speed and his lack of fear in front of the monster. He smiled faintly. Ikoma noticed that all the stares he was receiving were because of the video, and Satsuki, excited, told him he had reached 1 million views in a single day. Meanwhile, in her room, Hoshina was happy to see that the video of Ikoma she had uploaded had already hit that impressive mark. She celebrated with her arms raised, cheering for herself. Suddenly, the phone rang, showing the name Ikoma Ichinos on the screen. Surprised by the quick contact, Hoshina answered the call, remembering she had given him her number to exchange information. However, her expression changed when she heard Ikoma ask sharply how she had dared to post a video of him. Sad, Hoshina considered taking the content down, but Ikoma remembered the scene where she tried to silence the warrior who spoke about her struggles to support her family. He then said it didn't matter, simply stating that he had noticed the video, which left Hoshina relieved. Changing the subject, she mentioned that the video had received many views. With a big smile, she suggested that next time they could film something like a portal date. Right after, Hoshina noticed that the call had ended. Satsuki asked if she hadn't been saying something before Ikoma hung up, but he chose to ignore it. Meanwhile, Ikoma reflected that if his level continued to rise, perhaps he could find time for something truly important. He thought about obtaining an extremely rare item that once seemed unreachable, known as the Ring of Wisdom. With that in mind, he clenched his fist, believing that he could even change the course of history. A moment later, the receptionist pointed to the screen, confirming that Ikoma was at level 36, indicating that he now had the necessary experience. Then the protagonist was promoted to rank C and was duly congratulated. After that, Ikoma and Satsuki stepped away from the administration desk. She expressed admiration for his rapid rise, and he thanked her, wishing that she would also be promoted soon. Meanwhile, the receptionist at the administration desk was impressed by the speed of his advancement, something never seen before. Ikoma considered that his rapid progress was the result of his knowledge and experience, explaining that the most effective method to level up was to defeat high-level monsters. Soon after, Satsuki stated that he was one of the strongest rank C hunters and promised to work hard to reach the same level. In response, he declared that by the end of the month, he would become a rank B hunter. Satsuki showed concern over this ambitious goal, questioning if he wasn't pushing himself too hard and noting that few guilds had anyone that strong. Finally, Ikoma revealed that he had a specific item in mind that he wanted to obtain. To get it, he would need to access a high-level portal called the Library of Illusions, and for that, he needed to be a rank B hunter. He explained that the boss monster of that portal, one no one had ever defeated, would drop the Ring of Wisdom, exactly what he sought. Surprised, Satsuki asked how he knew what the monster would drop. She then asked if his reason for wanting this rare item was connected to what he had told her before, and Ikoma confirmed it. He pondered that the Ring of Wisdom might have some connection to the appearance of portals, which left Satsuki even more astonished at the importance of the object. He detailed that the ring was a high-value item that had suddenly disappeared before it could be analyzed in his previous life. Ikoma mentioned that in the past, specialists had used it to understand how portals appeared, and that even though it would be difficult to reach the required rank in time, he still wanted to obtain it. He stated that the item was something he wanted for himself, but that she didn't need to help if she didn't want to. Satsuki replied that she didn't mind, remembering how much he had helped her. She also said she felt happy to be needed by him, and Ikoma thanked her in return. Satsuki then expressed doubts about him reaching rank B before the end of the month, mentioning that promotion depended on portal records. Even so, he assured her that everything would be fine because he already had a plan in mind. He declared that the focus would be to create an impressive portal record. Soon, a boss monster, the level 32 red troll, appeared. Ikoma unleashed an attack and defeated it immediately. Next, Satsuki defeated another boss called the level 30 mermaid chief. After that, another boss, the level 36 spider ogre, was struck by a meteor drop attack. With that, Satsuki rose from level 32 to 35, reflecting that she couldn't believe they had cleared 3 portals in just 2 weeks. Although recognizing that the bosses were lower level, Satsuki questioned how easy the task felt, and Ikoma confirmed that they were usually difficult. He explained that at this level, boss monsters were limited to simple movement patterns, and their abilities were not devastating. In addition, he revealed that he knew all the portals relatively easy to clear around the capital and had even prepared a complete list of them for quick access. He then showed a portal map on his phone and stated that, so far, they had managed to clear 5 portals above level 30. Soon after, they arrived at the guild reception, where the receptionist confirmed that Ikoma's portal record was impressive, barely able to believe he had cleared so many. The staff member then explained that they would go through rigorous evaluations for promotion to rank B, and that they would be contacted in a few days. At that moment, a muscular man, Mr. Ukami, appeared, looking indignant as he questioned whether the kid was really applying for promotion to rank B. Ikoma looked at him carefully and asked if he worked for the guild, noticing the emblem on his chest. Then it was revealed that some hunters with good performance signed exclusive contracts with the guild. The man began arguing with the receptionist as it was explained that these hunters' duties included portal management, responding to incidents, and making recommendations for the organization itself. They also had great influence over the guild they belonged to, and Ukami considered it absurd that Ikoma was about to be promoted to rank B. Even so, the receptionist informed him that Ikoma was already close to level 40 and had an extensive record of clearing multiple mid-level portals. Surprised, Ukami asked if that meant he had already defeated several boss monsters. As the two stared at each other, the man remembered that it had taken him 7 years to become the only rank B hunter at the Morima branch of the guild. With that, he began to wonder how Ikoma could already be at his level. Observing the man's expression, Ikoma realized that this person would probably become a problem. Ukami stepped up to Ikoma, questioning how a boy with that appearance could be a rank B hunter. The young man replied that without Ukami's approval, it would be difficult to get promoted in the Morema branch. However, he concluded that he could not give up, since it was only possible to apply for promotion in the branch of one's own city. Remembering all the help he had received from Satsuki, he reinforced his decision not to back down. Turning to the man, he confirmed his name, Ukami, and asked for a valid reason for rejecting his application. The hunter leaned forward and said that rank B was not given to rookies who thought portals were easy. He then aggressively questioned Ikoma about whether he took his role as a hunter seriously, demanding an immediate answer. Meanwhile, people in the guild watched the scene, commenting that Ukami was causing trouble again. Ikoma interrupted, asking how many hunters had reached rank B at only 17 years old. Confused, Ukami reacted without understanding the question and asked what kind of nonsense he was talking about. Ikoma continued, mentioning the 15 years since portals first appeared. He then pointed out that 6 young people at age 17 had reached rank B and questioned whether, by Ukami's logic, none of them should have been promoted. With that, he declared that he fulfilled all the requirements for rank B and demanded that Ukami answer before rejecting him based solely on age. Without a clear response, Ukami stepped back while admitting that the rules about portals were not perfect. He claimed that it was necessary to listen to the experience of hunters who worked for the guild. However, Ikoma replied that the rules were not based on beliefs but on guidelines shaped by past incidents. He then cast a sharp look and asked if that was not the guild's official policy. As the woman at the desk confirmed, she began to analyze the data on the computer. Satsuki observed that Ikoma's knowledge and logic surpassed even that of an experienced hunter in the organization. While people murmured about Ukami being left speechless, he himself remarked that it had been a bold move. After the humiliation, he silently planned that someone would pay for such defiance. He then stated that he would make Ikoma regret challenging him and asked the receptionist what Ikoma's level and class were, identified as a level 38 gravity user. Soon after, he questioned the woman about that class, surprised that he had never heard of it and wondering if it was perhaps a rare class. Ikoma reflected that the class was probably mage type and that a powerful warrior might have been the reason for his rapid level gain. Then Ukami admitted that he had been too harsh, and that it would be unfair to reject the application without a good reason. Finally, the man announced that he would not reject the request, but impose a condition. He challenged Ikoma to prove he deserved rank B in a match at the guild's training hall. In the training hall, marked by a sign, several people conversed while waiting. Ukami reiterated his condition, stating that promotion would only be granted if Ikoma proved his abilities in a fight. Otherwise, his application would be denied. Meanwhile, 2 people murmured about his history in matches, recalling that he had nearly killed others in previous fights. Others commented that the situation was unlikely to end well for Ikoma, since Ukami often used these duels as an excuse to vent his anger. Satsuki then showed concern for her companion. Ukami stared intently at Ikoma, dwelling on the public humiliation he had suffered earlier. Comparing their levels, he pointed out that the boy was level 38, while he himself had already reached level 47. Realizing he was dealing with a mage, Ukami theorized that the boy had only come this far thanks to help from some powerful hunter. He then declared himself a beast warrior, stressing that the nature of his class enhanced his physical attributes. With a smile on his face, he planned to humiliate and crush the boy publicly to prevent him from continuing as a hunter, believing his experience and attributes were superior. Ikoma then manipulated a holographic screen in front of him. Watching the action, Ukami assumed he possessed a class focused on direct combat. Aware that he needed to act carefully, Ikoma decided to use his remaining skill points to increase his gravity magic. He spent 25 points to raise gravitational manipulation to level 4, anticipating a boost in his physical attributes. Although he would have preferred to invest directly in gravity magic, he concluded he had no other choice and decided to proceed. At that moment, Ukami taunted him, assuming he had been hoarding points before the battle and had led an easy life so far. With a sarcastic tone, he warned about possible accidents in fights, advising him not to get hurt. Ikoma simply thanked him for the advice. Then the challenger asked him to show his skills, and Ikoma responded by drawing his sword. With a determined expression, Ukami planned to prove his superiority before everyone present. He smiled, resolved to humiliate Ikoma publicly and prevent him from returning to work as a hunter. Ukami, wielding his weapon, invited his opponent to start the fight whenever he wanted, making it clear that he would not use any skills, though the other could. Ikoma remained silent, simply observing the situation. Standing still in the center of the area, he was watched by many onlookers from above, all curious about what was about to happen. With a confident smile, Ukami declared that now it would be the boy's turn to be humiliated in public. As soon as Ikoma announced the start of the fight, he activated an ability that reduced the gravity around him. In Ukami's mind, the boy's attacks would never reach him, and he would end up as a joke. However, with a swift movement, Ikoma dashed forward to strike. Seeing the speed of the attack, Ukami was stunned, unable to understand what had just happened. While blocking the blow with his weapon, he questioned how his opponent could move like that at such a level. Moments later, realizing that Ikoma had already repositioned behind him, He asked in shock what had just occurred, even while trying to convince himself that he had only been caught off guard and now knew his opponent Ukami counterattacked with his weapon. Ikoma hovered above the ground while Ukami looked up at him, still gripping his blade. Then Ukami lost his balance and staggered, realizing he had lost his own center of gravity. Immediately after, Ikoma moved with incredible speed, propelled by his energy. With a precise kick, he struck Ukami's face, causing immediate bleeding. Ukami coughed up blood, shaken by the force of the strike. Despite the injury, he tried to attack again with his weapon. However, he noticed his opponent had executed a combination of moves ending in a kick, and he wondered how anyone could fight that way. From a distance, someone watched the fight through a device, unable to believe that Ikoma was completely dominating. Meanwhile, the spectators murmured that this was just a promotion test and speculated whether Ukami was holding back by not using skills. Ikoma then delivered a strike that forced Ukami to retreat. Watching him move with such speed, Ukami realized his own attacks couldn't even reach him. At that instant, he noticed people whispering that he was making a fool of himself. Ikoma hovered over him as he stood frozen. It was then that the young hunter pointed out something the opponent hadn't realized yet. He declared that the gravity user class was the best because it allowed physical abilities to be pushed far beyond normal limits, surpassing other classes. He explained that this advantage was especially decisive in short battles, where he didn't risk running out of mana. Ikoma also stated that Ukami was mistaken in thinking he would win simply because he had a higher level and wasn't using skills. Then Ikoma recalled that Kaoru had far more experience in direct combat, executing more refined movements and driven by an obsessive desire to win and eliminate his enemies. Without hesitation, Ikoma lunged forward to strike Ukami with his sword. He then activated his ability to increase gravity. Ukami, surprised, realized that Ikoma's blow was heavy. He wasn't just fast, but powerful as well. For a moment, Ukami thought his opponent had vanished and wondered where he had gone. Ikoma then appeared upside down in the air as Ukami looked at the ground where he disappeared. Next, Ikoma materialized behind Ukami, pressing his sword against his back. He explained that he had reduced gravity immediately after their weapons clashed, using the impact to quickly reposition behind his opponent. The spectators watching the fight declared that the experienced rank B hunter hadn't stood a chance against Ikoma, cheering his victory. Satsuki, smiling brightly, expressed her happiness and told him he had been amazing. Meanwhile, Ukami stood in disbelief, asking if this was some kind of joke. Refusing to accept defeat, he said he had been humiliated and that it was unacceptable. Ikoma then asked if, with his victory, he could officially become a rank B hunter. Suddenly, he stopped moving, sensing something strange. Consumed by a red aura, Ukami lunged at him aggressively. He roared at Ikoma, his eyes glowing red as he activated a claw skill. With a swift motion, he slashed with the activated claw. The attack struck Ikoma, forcing him back several steps. Ikoma admitted he hadn't dodged the strike because he had let down his guard, believing the fight was over. Watching Ikoma, Ukami thought the whole situation was ridiculous. He explained that he had used his weapon as a distraction to hide his real move, though Ikoma had still managed to block part of the attack. Outside the arena, people began murmuring about what had just happened, declaring that it was cheating since the fight had ended. They also pointed out that Ukami had clearly said he wouldn't use skills during the duel. Even so, he remained furious, being booed by the crowd. Confused, Ikoma asked what was happening and whether the promotion test would continue as a swirl of energy formed around him. Ukami clenched his teeth, consumed by rage, and swore he would not let Ikoma mock him, vowing to turn the boy's life into a living hell. Ikoma asked if his performance proved his eligibility. Meanwhile, Ukami reflected that it would be unacceptable to be defeated by someone of a lower level, as that would compromise his influence within the guild. With that, he declared that it was useless to continue and refused the promotion request. The news of the results stirred murmurs among the onlookers while Ikoma remained standing still. Then the evaluator stated that although Ikoma had agility, he was incapable of delivering a decisive blow, which made him weak against powerful monsters. Right after, he explained that he had deliberately given several opportunities, but the boy had not taken advantage of them. Finally, he pointed out that Ikoma failed to dodge his final technique and ended up injured, proving an inability to react to unexpected situations. The spectators began to murmur that this was unfair, commenting that Ukami would have rejected the promotion no matter what. Hearing this, Ukami demanded to know what had been said, causing one man to flinch. Another man advised him to keep quiet so as not to provoke his anger. At that moment, Utsunomiya shouted Ukami's name, asking if he felt no shame for what he had just done. Ikoma then realized Utsunomiya was there. The man accused Ukami of not keeping his word about not using abilities and stated that Ikoma had held the upper hand throughout the entire fight. In response, Ukami told him to shut up, calling him a nobody. Even so, Utsunomiya assured Ikoma that he would handle the situation and reveal the truth about what had happened. However, Ikoma refused the offer, questioning the use of the term best friend and the reason behind Utsunomiya's help. Satsuki, who had watched the fight, believed that he had won. She wondered why Ikoma was acting that way, remembering that he needed Ukami to acknowledge his abilities. Ikoma revealed that this was why he had made sure to show clearly the difference between them. Right after, he reflected that although he had hurt his opponent's pride, maybe he should have been less humiliating. He concluded that there was no use in realizing that now, since defeating him had changed nothing. Then someone approached, asking about all the commotion. Ukami recognized the deputy guild master Surizawa. He asked why Surizawa was there, stating that he had been looking for him. The other man replied that he was evaluating a hunter, but that the subject had proven to be a waste of time. Surizawa looked at Ikoma and asked if it was really necessary to hurt anyone else, acknowledging that accidents can happen in combat. Ukami scoffed at the injury, calling it mere scratches. Then Surizawa told him to drop the matter. Ikoma watched as Ukami told his superior that they needed to discuss an urgent matter and was then called upstairs. Ending the test, he stated that he didn't have time to deal with the weak, while Surizawa walked away. Utsunomiya, surprised, commented that he was the strongest hunter in the guild. Satsuki turned to Ikoma and asked what they would do next. With a hand on his head, he replied that they would need to find other ways. As the elevator reached the 13th floor, Surizawa asked whether the combat had really been necessary for an evaluation. Ukami then explained that he had fought to show reality to someone arrogant who sought promotion. The deputy master then questioned the young man's candidacy for rank B, thinking that perhaps rookies did not take experienced hunters seriously. Seated in the room, he asked Surizawa what the subject he wanted to discuss was. The other man revealed that the main topic was the rank B portal of the Temple of Beasts, under the Morima branch. He explained that managing portals of that level was extremely lucrative, allowing hunters to grow and gather demon stones. Then he pointed to a tablet, reporting that abrupt changes had been noticed in the distribution of monsters inside the portal. He continued, explaining that mana density levels were also abnormal, and that the priority should be preventing disasters, not chasing profits. The evaluator, holding a paper, seemed to understand that Surizawa wanted to get rid of the Temple of Beasts to avoid future problems. Surizawa confirmed, explaining that the ministry wanted to keep rank B portals because they were scarce, and the guild master also hesitated to close it due to the profits. He added that the only reason for this hesitation was the fact that Ukami, as an experienced hunter, had declared the place safe. He added that the portal raised many questions and that personally he was not sure about its safety. Therefore, he asked the evaluator to offer the guild master a new opinion. The man then asked if this was the real reason he had been called. However, Surizawa interrupted him, saying he was not finished. Then he covered his face with his hand and told him to shut up. Soon after, Ukami grabbed a paper and declared that the portal was fine, tossing it aside. Surizawa bent down to pick it up, saying he hadn't even looked at the collected data. Even so, the evaluator stepped on the papers, asking what those data could possibly tell him. Still smiling, he declared that as an experienced specialist, he guaranteed the portal was safe and that he could clear it at any time if something happened. Slamming his hand on the surface, he affirmed that they could not afford accidents as no one even knew the real cause of portal disasters. Meanwhile, Surizawa remained silent, merely observing. He then thought that their duty was to protect the area, and in the next moment, a sleeping creature opened its eyes. Ikoma thought the situation was troublesome. He soon reflected on Hunter Ukami's behavior. He explained that one could only request promotion in their own branch, making it impossible to bypass the hunter to achieve advancement. He then said they needed a rank B hunter to enter the Library of Illusions, and that although Setsuki could try the test in another branch, he did not yet have the required level for promotion. Therefore, he declared that they needed to find a solution. Just then, Hoshina arrived abruptly, asking the boy if the guild hunter had blocked his promotion. The young woman showed her phone, revealing that one of her fans had recorded a video of Ikoma facing Ukami and sent it to her. She immediately suggested posting the video with the title, Guild Corruption? Ukami's abuse of authority, confident that her 120,000 subscribers would react to the injustice. Ikoma asked if she was only doing this for views, and the girl denied it. She declared that she wanted to repay him for saving her, offering her help. However, she also admitted that she wouldn't mind if the action brought her views and profit. The boy said he didn't want her to post the video, mentioning that there was still much to be understood about portals. He went on to explain that the guild needed experienced hunters, and that criticism would not make people like Ukami change their minds. Furthermore, he warned that doing so would only put her in Ukami's sights, which made Satsuki react to the information. She watched as Hoshina asked if Ikoma was worried about her. Satsuki then asked if the girl had feelings for him. Hoshina reacted in shock, questioning what she was talking about. Soon after, she stated that Ikoma had many secrets and acted superior, saying she would never like someone so annoying, even if he had a handsome face. She clarified that she was only worried because he had saved her, and as an online celebrity, she would never risk a dating scandal. While watching her, Satsuki listened as Hoshina asked why she was staring, to which Satsuki quickly denied. Suddenly, the phone chimed and everyone looked at the screen. Satsuki read the emergency alert about a rank B monster incident in Tokyo and asked what had happened. Hoshina pointed to the phone as Ikoma explained that the incident was on Kitahana Avenue, caused by an overflow from the portal of the Temple of Beasts. He clarified that overflows occur when monsters invade the human world, and that the only way to contain them is by defeating the boss monster to seal the portal. He then reflected that the event was strange, as such a thing had never happened in Morima Ward in his previous life, questioning if it was only a coincidence. As memories from his past surrounded him, he wondered if the timeline was diverging from that of his earlier life. Hoshiina commented that a supposedly controlled portal had malfunctioned. She asked why the guild had not predicted such an event, since they had analyzed portals for so long. The young woman admitted that she had never been in a rank B portal and did not have enough power to help. She soon remembered a scene of her father asking for help against a monster and declared that many people were weaker and needed her help. Then she stated she was heading to the location. Akuma explained that no one knew how dangerous a defective rank B portal could become, since monster-related disasters could trigger other phenomena. At the scene of the incident, Bukami confronted a large creature amidst the rubble. The creature revealed itself to be a level 34 werewolf. The hunter leaped through the air to strike it with his weapon. He advanced quickly, declaring that no one would stop him. In that moment, he thought the situation was dire and that the portal's proximity to Sarizawa was unfavorable for his reputation. Two people praised the hunter for defeating a strong monster with a single blow of his weapon. Then he asked if they had no one stronger, stating they could not handle the disaster with rank C people like them. They replied that there were very few rank B hunters or higher, and although they had contacted those who could help, they did not know when they would arrive. Akuma explained that Ukami's reputation would be ruined if the disaster spiraled out of control, but revealed that he had already fought the monster from this portal before. He then said the boss monster was a level 47 phantom fox, and that it should not be difficult to defeat. He stated that Ukami intended to defeat the boss monster quickly, blame Sarizawa, and become Morima's hero. The hunter then declared it was time to eliminate the boss monster, and suddenly a massive explosion hit the area, followed by screams from people. All at once, a huge paw appeared, and someone asked if that could be a boss monster. Then, an enormous monster with multiple fox heads engulfed in flames appeared on the scene. The two people exclaimed in alarm that the portal's information had not mentioned such a creature. The summoned monster revealed itself as a level 55 summoner fox, and the boys questioned the grotesque appearance of that thing. The boss of the Temple of Beasts evolved, changing its form, increasing in level, and gaining new abilities. With this evolution, the monster turned into an entirely new entity due to the buildup of mana in the portals, causing disasters. Bukami realized that the boss monster had evolved, making the situation far more serious in addition to the existing overflow. As soon as Utsunomiya saw the monster's level -55 summoner fox, he asked how they could possibly fight such a powerful creature. Faced with the situation, the two agreed that they needed to retreat and wait for reinforcements and other hunters. Even so, Okami called them fools and declared that retreating would stain his reputation after insisting on keeping the portal open. He reminded them that he was a rank B hunter. He stressed that he had already faced many such dangers. With a scheming look, he said they should distract the monster so that he could deliver the finishing blow and kill it. The two young men said the idea was reckless, insisting they wouldn't last 10 seconds acting as bait against a monster like that. Okami grew irritated at their refusal and concluded they would not do as ordered. With a grin, he decided he had no choice but to give the boys some incentive. Then he invoked the Berserk skill, and a beam of red energy shot from his hand, striking the two. As the red energy wrapped around their bodies, the boys collapsed to the ground with intense headaches. The Berserk magic, a spell from the Beast Warrior class, temporarily increases the target's attack while reducing their reasoning, making them aggressive. The hunter revealed that he had often used this skill to create human bait and escape monsters, though he admitted he hadn't used it in a while. He then kicked one of the boys, sending him flying forward. Next, he ordered the two to attack the monster. He planned to step in and deliver the killing blow once they had distracted it. With a sadistic smile, he thought this would serve as a lesson, since good people didn't survive in the world of hunters. The two, under the effect of the ability, charged at the monster wielding their weapons as he watched. Meanwhile, the creature revealed a grotesque pulsating eye on its back, where the eyelid was made of hands. The monster activated Poltergeist through the eyeball. Soon it advanced toward the boys as debris levitated all around. Bukami was taken aback by the situation, questioning how the creature could unleash such a powerful attack. While running for cover, debris rained from the sky. The boys screamed in pain, still under the skill's effect, and he dismissed them as useless. The hunter noticed a huge piece of rubble coming his way. With a powerful strike, he smashed the rubble using the Beast King's smash ability. He concluded that the monster was using telekinesis. He realized that the creature's power far exceeded his own. The fox monster pursued him, forcing him to run through the ruined city. He had wondered if the enemy was supposed to be this strong. The monster closed in, almost reaching him, leaving him extremely on edge. Bukami noted the creature's speed and drew his sword, raising his guard. The monster charged another telekinetic attack through its eye. He blocked the debris with his massive sword. After deflecting a second projectile in quick succession, Bukami felt the weight of not dodging. The monster lunged to attack him with its sharp claws when his guard was compromised. He fell to the ground, realizing the enemy's overwhelming strength. Then he thought about the impossibility of fighting such a creature, and how he could ever defeat it, before concluding that it didn't matter. With that, he activated his false death skill, which allowed him to simulate death after taking damage, stopping his pulse completely. The monster looked at the fallen body, and turned its head when it sensed no heartbeat. As soon as the enemy was distracted, Okami realized he needed to flee. He started to run, but the monster activated its eye once more. Soon, the creature caught up and lunged with a claw attack. The hunter was struck and fell to the ground again, realizing the eye on the monster's back could also see. He lamented that it was too late to escape, but panicked, unwilling to die that way. The monster prepared to deliver the final blow, enveloping him in a dark magic. Okami was immobilized by the energy and wondered if the creature was mocking him. Then the dark mist invaded his body. He screamed in agony, with no way to escape that cruel fate. Finally, Ikoma arrived in the ruined city during the devastation caused by the monsters. Hashina healed an injured civilian, who was surprised to see his wounds vanish. Ikoma told the man to run in the opposite direction, assuring him he wouldn't find monsters that way. The man thanked him and went on his way. Hoshina began to speak with Ikoma, who appeared deep in thought. He said he needed to move on quickly to contain the overflow as soon as possible. The young woman agreed, acknowledging that he was right. Then she checked her phone and realized an hour had already passed, yet the problem was still unresolved. Ikoma thought that the Ministry of Monster Eradication should have already defeated the boss of the Temple of Beasts, but concluded that they were taking far too long. With that, he came to the conclusion that he would have to assume the worst. Okami struck the woman first, and she screamed in pain, falling in shock. He then unleashed an attack called Beast Claw, injuring the bald man. The man groaned from the wound and gripped his weapon tightly. Soon after, he counterattacked, clashing his weapon against Okami's. The attacker smiled maliciously, while the other glared at him, only to be sent flying backward by a powerful strike. The woman cried out the name Captain Kurokawa, and Okami laughed. He remarked that it was difficult to bring down a rank B hunter. He continued, saying that this was merely a side effect of the calamity and not just a normal monster disaster. In his eyes, the local troops and hunters would never be able to handle the situation. Even so, he laughed again and quickly charged at the bald man who tried to defend himself. Ikoma arrived just in time, using his ability to reduce gravity. He collided with Okami in midair before the other could be struck. Quickly, Ikoma deduced that Okami seemed to be under the monster's mind control as the man hissed at him. The bald man tried to warn him not to fight, saying Okami was no ordinary hunter. Ikoma attacked with fast and fluid movements. The onlooker was impressed, saying he couldn't believe a young hunter like him was dominating a rank B hunter. He continued to watch, realizing he had never seen anyone like Ikoma before. Soon he noticed that Okami was using simple attacks, unlike his previous combat displays, and wondered if it was due to mind control. Even so, the hunter used his beast claw in a heavy strike, which Ikoma quickly dodged. With that, he noticed his opponent growing agitated and began varying his movements. As soon as he activated his gravity increase ability, Okami was slammed down with tremendous force. Ikoma followed with a powerful strike, making him cry out in pain. Then Ikoma stepped closer and asked if he could see clearly now. Okami glared at him, looking confused, and recognized Ikoma, asking if they were still in the training match. With a furious shout, he promised to kill him, entering a berserk state. Even so, he was struck again, the mind control proving even stronger. Ikoma slid his weapon into position, acknowledging that his opponent's level was higher than his own. Therefore, he declared he could no longer hold back and that it wasn't personal, readying himself for the attack. He launched an aerial strike at Okami, hitting him squarely in the face. Ikoma planned to strike from above and increase gravity to execute his blow. Then he activated Meteor Drop, slamming into the enemy with devastating force. With the impact, Okami screamed in agony. Next, Ikoma severed his right arm. He also tore the ligaments in Okami's leg, leaving him unable to move. Ikoma stood there, breathing heavily, while the bald man watched him. The veteran wondered about the boy's power, imagining that he was holding back to avoid killing a rank B hunter. Hashina and Satsuki arrived, complaining about Ikoma's speed, and he apologized for rushing. He explained that different character classes had different movement speeds. The bald man instructed the woman to evacuate people to a safe location. However, Ikoma disagreed, saying they wouldn't have time for that. Then he spotted the summoner fox boss, a two-headed creature, approaching, and concluded there would be no time for evacuation. Satsuki and Hoshina stared at the creature anxiously. The creature roared, and the ground shook with a shockwave. Immediately, Ikoma readied his weapon, realizing how serious the situation had become. Meanwhile, the creature laughed mockingly. Satsuki questioned what kind of grotesque thing that was. Ikoma activated the menu hologram to gather information about the monster. The system identified the boss as a level 55 summoner fox from the Temple of Beasts. The fox's level was far higher than what had been recorded, and he realized this explained the monster's evolution due to the overflow of energy. Ikoma reflected that he had no idea what new abilities the creature might have learned through its evolution. Hoshina asked if the disaster would end if they defeated that monster, and he answered yes, but taking it down would not be simple. The summoner fox boss then summoned countless level 30 phantom wolves. Numerous wolves emerged around Ikoma, Satsuki, and Hoshina. The young woman realized the monster had summoned a massive number of creatures. Faced with the situation, she thought about the damage the overflow would cause and the people who would be affected. While the monster laughed, Hoshina noticed it seemed to be enjoying the chaos. Ikoma asked her, along with her companion, to handle the summoned monsters and protect the others while he advanced. She asked what he would do. He replied that he would bring down the boss monster as quickly as possible to stop the overflow. Hoshina extended her hand.